Chapter 379. Wyazi looked at Nyeli and asked, "What about the rest of the demon blood?" Nyeli waved his right hand. "I'll keep the rest of the demon blood in my interspatial ring." "All right." Wyazi pondered for a moment, but didn't pursue the matter with Nyeli. In any case, once he came out of the void illusionary divine palace, he'd kill Nyeli and Xiaoyu. Then he'd take back the demon blood in Nyeli's interspatial ring. Although he felt that his actions were a little unkind, he had no other choice. If Nyeli and Xiaoyu returned with the effects of the demon blood sacrifice, it'd leave a lot of hidden dangers in the future. In the past, some demon clansmen had secretly helped humans complete the demon blood sacrifice. In the end, they'd been chased to death by demon clan experts. None of those who'd obtained the demon blood sacrifice had a good ending. The demon blood sacrifice had some very mysterious effects. Even Wyazi wasn't very clear about them. It was an extremely important secret of the demon clan. Even the pinnacle experts of the Yaoshin sect didn't necessarily know the true effects of the demon blood sacrifice, especially since Wyazi had inherited demon blood from the primordial bloodline. He couldn't allow it to fall into the hands of humans. Therefore, after this matter with the void illusionary divine palace, he still had to get rid of Nyeli and Xiaoyu. At worst, he'd gift Nyeli and Xiaoyu some treasures the next time they met as compensation. "All right, let's go." Wyazi glanced at Nyeli and Xiaoyu. Nyeli glanced at Xiaoyu and faintly smiled. "It's said that as long as you circulate the demon blood in your body, you can use the power of the demon blood sacrifice to change your appearance and aura." Nyeli circulated the demon blood in his body, and the shape of his body rapidly changed, along with the shape of his face. A pair of pointed, furry ears grew out of his head, similar to Wyazi's. Nyeli looked at them in the water. The adorable appearance of those ears made him want to vomit blood. He glanced at Xiaoyu. The same pair of ears grew on Xiaoyu's head. It added a cute and gentle temperament to Xiaoyu. After activating the power of the demon blood sacrifice, their appearances had completely changed. Even Lu Piao and the others wouldn't be able to recognize Nyeli and Xiaoyu. "Wyazi, what race are you from?" "What race are you from?" Nyeli touched the ears on his head. "Are you from the rabbit race?" Hearing Nyeli's words, Wyazi's face darkened. "You're the rabbit. We're from the divine blooded raccoon clan. Our ancestors have heavenly bloodline inheritance. Primordial bloodline, do you understand?" Nyeli previously guessed that Wyazi was from the Nine Nether Raccoon clan. He had the primordial bloodline. He didn't expect Wyazi to be from the divine blooded raccoon clan. Primordial bloodline inheritance. With the divine blooded raccoon clan's demon blood sacrifice, what should he do? Nyeli circulated the demon blood in his body and gathered it in his soul realm. Countless streams of demon blood flowed into his soul realm like rivers flowing into the sea. Boom, boom, boom. The demon blood stimulated his soul realm. Under the impact of this majestic power, his soul realm was like boiling water. The primordial bloodline was truly extraordinary. Under the stimulation of the primordial bloodline, the vines in his body began to grow frantically. A white flower quietly bloomed. Then came the second one. The third flower bloomed all the way to the fifth. 5 pure white flowers bloomed quietly. This power, it seemed to have a faint connection with the myriad miles, rivers, and mountains painting, not to mention the 3 demon spirits in his soul realm. Poof! Aside from the red, blue, yellow, black, and violet fate souls from before, a 6th fate soul, green, rapidly condensed. 6th fate realm. Wyazi sensed the change in Nyeli's aura and asked in astonishment, You've made a breakthrough?" Nyeli wore a blank expression. "I'm not sure why. It seems like I've made a breakthrough. Maybe I was already at the peak of the 5 fate realm. I don't know why, but I suddenly made a breakthrough." "Oh." Wyazi nodded. Under Wiazi's lead, the three of them flew towards the void illusionary divine palace. On the way, Wiazi followed Nieli and Xiao Yu closely. Nieli and Xiao Yu were only in the heavenly fate realm. With Wiazi's strength in the heavenly access realm, Nieli and Xiao Yu wouldn't be able to escape. However, Wiazi still couldn't be at ease. As the three of them flew, Nieli continued to circulate the power of the demon blood sacrifice. The cultivation of a demon clan expert was contained within the demon blood. With Wiazi's help, Nieli had completed the demon blood sacrifice. That was equivalent to possessing a portion of Wiazi's demon blood. Once Wiazi's demon blood was completely aroused, Nieli would be able to possess the same cultivation as Wiazi at an astonishing speed. It wouldn't even take 3 months. Furthermore, Wiazi possessed the primordial bloodline, a heavenly vein inheritance. Wiazi's ancestors' countless intents were hidden within his demon blood. Once Nieli unsealed the demon blood, Nieli would be able to possess the power of the primordial bloodline at any time and use it to transform his physical body. The physical body of the demon clan had always been the most powerful. Although humans could obtain great strength by fusing with their demon spirits, they still didn't possess the physical body of a true demon. Therefore, it was easy to kill them in human form. However, with this strand of demon blood, Nieli could slowly transform his physical body until he possessed the body of the primordial bloodline of the demon clan. The reason why the Holy Emperor was so powerful was because the Holy Emperor possessed the primordial bloodline. However, Nieli didn't know which branch of the Holy Emperor's primordial bloodline was stronger, or if it was the divine Raccoon clan's primordial bloodline. This was only one of the magical effects of the demon blood sacrifice. Nieli frantically circulated the demon blood. He could feel his meridians slowly becoming tougher under the nourishment of the demon blood. They were dyed with a metallic luster. At the same time, he used the heavenly energy to constantly refine the demon blood, removing all the impurities within it. Puff! Aside from the 6th green fate soul, a 7th azure fate soul was ignited within Nieli's body. A majestic aura was emitted from Nieli. Even if Nieli wanted to conceal it, he couldn't. The primordial bloodline's demon blood was indeed too powerful. Nieli couldn't help thinking that he had only used a small portion of the demon blood's power. You advanced again? Wiazi was flying. He was stunned for a moment as he looked at Nieli and asked, "I don't know either. Maybe it's because of my cultivation technique." Nieli replied after pondering for a moment. Wiazi's eyes flickered. No matter what, he had to head to the void illusionary divine palace first. Once he was done with the void illusionary divine palace, he had to get rid of Nieli and Xiao Yu. Otherwise, the demon blood in someone else's body would be too unsettling. Although Nieli had advanced 2 ranks, he was still in the 7 fate, heavenly fate realm. He was still under Nieli's control. Nieli absolutely wouldn't let the situation completely slip out of his control. The 3 of them flew towards the void illusionary divine palace. In the distance, they saw a majestic palace towering over a mountain range. It was emitting rays of rainbow light that were incomparably gorgeous. However, the palace was faintly discernible like a mirage. They'd arrived at the void illusionary divine palace. Last night, they were supposed to update normally, but they forgot to bring their charger. Their computer ran out of battery, and they couldn't go online. Chapter 380. In the distance, the void illusionary divine palace's barrier was filled with people trying to enter. However, many experts couldn't find a way in. The surrounding mountains and trees were all part of the 1,000 illusionary soul bewildering array. Entering wasn't an easy task. Among those experts, there were demons and humans. They were all eyeing each other like tigers watching their prey. However, none of them wanted to make a move at this moment, so they maintained a certain distance from each other. If a fight broke out, no one would benefit from it. They might even lose the chance to enter the void illusionary divine palace. They only had 10 days. If they couldn't enter the void illusionary divine palace in 10 days, it would be extremely difficult to enter again. Nye Li landed outside the void illusionary divine palace's barrier and saw rainbow lights constantly changing. They were incomparably gorgeous. Every single one of them was a part of the 1,000 illusionary soul bewildering array. There were tens of thousands of people outside the 1,000 illusionary soul bewildering array, but none of them could find a way in. Wiyazi looked at Nye Li and asked, "How do we get in?" Nye Li looked at Wiyazi and said, "It's not time yet. We'll wait for another 4 hours, when it's almost noon, to find the flaw in the 1,000 illusionary soul bewildering array." Oh, Wiyazi nodded. Right now, he could only listen to Nye Li. Although he didn't know if Nye Li was telling the truth, he had a feeling that Nye Li could find the entrance to the 1,000 illusionary soul bewildering array. Nye Li continued to refine the demon blood in his body. Xiao Yu looked at Nye Li, then started to cultivate. Far away from the void illusionary divine palace, group of over 30 heavenly axis realm experts arrived outside the void illusionary divine palace, led by Long Tianming. Long Tianming stood outside the void illusionary divine palace and gazed inside. "Young master, it's extremely difficult to break the 1,000 illusionary soul bewildering array, and there are many demon clan experts nearby. Why did you come personally?" A golden-armored follower cupped his hands at Long Tianming. "Time waits for no man on the path of cultivation. This void illusionary divine palace was left behind by an almighty expert. Who knows? There might be some almighty's inheritance inside. As long as there's a chance, I have to give it a try." Long Tianming took a step forward, condensing his aura. At this moment, he was already at the heavenly axis realm. After integrating with a dragon bloodline god level growth rate demon spirit, his cultivation was much stronger than ordinary heavenly axis realm experts. A one-stage heavenly axis realm expert that had integrated with a dragon bloodline god level growth rate demon spirit wouldn't have any problems challenging a 9-stage heavenly axis realm expert. This was the power of a dragon bloodline god level growth rate demon spirit. Long Tianming tried to sense the entrance of the 1,000 illusionary array. Long Tianming of array, but his 1,000 illusionary soul bewildering technique. Seeing that Long Tianming was silent, everyone else stood respectfully, not daring to speak. Some demon clan experts discovered Long Tianming's group from afar, but they didn't come looking for trouble. After all, Long Tianming had over 30 heavenly axis realm experts with him. Aside from Tao of Dragon realm experts, no one dared to provoke Long Tianming's group. As more and more people gathered around the 1,000 illusionary soul bewildering array, the friction between the human and demon clans also increased. Battles broke out from time to time. After cultivating for a while, Nye Li started to observe the 1,000 illusionary soul bewildering array. He walked along the edge of the array. Wiyazi immediately followed behind Nye Li. "Why are you following me so closely?" Nye Li asked as he glanced at Wiyazi. Wiyazi simply followed closely behind. Wiyazi chuckled. "You guys are only at the heavenly fate realm, and there's so many heavenly axis realm experts nearby. I'm worried that you guys might run into trouble." "Don't worry, I'll help you find the entrance. But let me make this clear. We'll split the treasures we find in half. Furthermore, I get to choose first," Nye Li said. "No problem." Wiyazi agreed without the slightest hesitation. In any case, it was all the same. Once he came out of the void illusionary divine palace, he'd kill both Nye Li and Xiao Yu. If Nye Li got to choose first, then so be it. The three of them continued on their way. "Nye Li, look over there." Xiao Yu pointed into the distance. Nye Li looked in the direction Xiao Yu was pointing. He saw Long Tianming's group doing something over there. There weren't any conflicts between him and Long Tianming. However, Nieli always felt that Long Tianming wasn't a good person. He didn't have a good impression of Long Tianming. Nieli pondered for a moment. An idea suddenly struck Nieli. Since he and Xiaoyu weren't in their human forms, Long Tianming probably wouldn't be able to recognize Nieli and Xiaoyu, even if they stood in front of each other. Intentionally or unintentionally, Nieli slowly approached Long Tianming's group, pretending to examine the 1,000 illusionary soul bewildering array. The aura of the 1,000 illusionary soul bewildering array is getting stronger. The entrance might be nearby, Nieli said with a little excitement as he quickened his pace towards Long Tianming's group. Wuyazi called out to Nieli, "Wait, that group of people are all at the heavenly access realm." Nieli furrowed his brows, looked at Wuyazi and asked, "You're not their match?" "What a joke! How could I not be their match? I can defeat all of them by myself." Wuyazi curled his lips. Nieli looked at Wuyazi and casually said, "Yeah, that's enough." Wuyazi knitted his brows. "There are over 30 heavenly axis realm experts. If they fight, it'll be troublesome." "Forget it, then. It's just that they've gathered here without moving. It's very likely that they've sensed an entrance or something. If they get in first, then the treasures of the Void Illusionary Divine Palace might fall into their hands." Nieli pretended to be indifferent as he walked back. Wuyazi thought about it. If the entrance was really near them, then wouldn't it be a loss for him to retreat? From his point of view, those 30 heavenly access realm experts might be a little hard to deal with, but it wasn't like he couldn't deal with them. Wuyazi pondered for a brief moment and said, "Continue your search, as long as you can find the entrance. If we can't deal with them, we'll just chase them away. If they don't know what's good for them, then we'll make a move. They're a bunch of humans, anyway." At Wuyazi's words, Nieli revealed an undetectable smile as he walked towards Long Tianming's group. Just as Nieli's group of 3 approached Long Tianming's group, a heavenly access realm expert clad in golden armor blocked Nieli's path. He fiercely glared at Nieli's group and said, "Demon Clan trash, get lost. If you take another step forward, don't blame me for making a move." This heavenly access realm expert was Long Tianming's subordinate and was responsible for guarding this area. He furiously barked the moment he saw Nieli's group approaching. He could tell that Nieli and Xiao were only at the heavenly fate realm. Although he couldn't see through Wuyazi's cultivation, how much of an expert could he be when he was with 2 heavenly fate realm experts? At the other party's words, Wuyazi's face immediately turned black. "Who did you say is trash?" Wuyazi coldly looked at the heavenly access realm expert. Chapter 381. Seeing Wuyazi's attitude, the heavenly access realm expert coldly snorted. "I'm talking about you 3 pieces of trash. Don't be blind, or I'll slaughter all 3 of you." The heavenly access realm expert coldly swept his gaze at Nieli's group of 3. Hearing the heavenly access realm expert's words, Wuyazi's rage was ignited. Nieli patted Wuyazi's shoulder and said, forget it. Let's go." When the heavenly access realm expert saw Wuyazi's furious expression, he sensed a trace of danger. He had some doubts in his heart, but when he saw Nieli's weak expression, his aura instantly grew stronger. To be able to call a heavenly fate realm expert brother, Wuyazi's cultivation probably wasn't that high either. Wuyazi clenched his fists tightly. He could be considered a figure in the Yaoshan sect, so who would dare to call him trash? Wuyazi pointed at the heavenly access realm expert and furiously rebuked, "You bunch of people, scram! I'll give you half an hour. If you don't scram by then, I won't leave a single one of you alive." At Wuyazi's words, the heavenly access realm expert was so angry that he started laughing. This demon clan brat was simply too ignorant and arrogant. Suddenly, Long Tianming noticed the commotion and looked over. "What's going on?" he asked in a deep voice. The heavenly access realm expert immediately bowed and replied, reporting to young master. There are 3 heavenly fate realm demons here. I told them to scram, but they wouldn't listen. Just tell them to scram. Long Tianming indifferently said. It was just 3 heavenly fate realm demons. Chasing them away would be enough. Originally, Long Tianming would have sent his men to kill the 3 heavenly fate realm demon clan members. He didn't know when the void illusionary divine palace's entrance would open, and he didn't want to cause any trouble. He'd already lent over 200 heavenly access realm experts to Guhang, so he didn't have many followers with him. It was best to keep a low profile. That heavenly access realm expert turned his head to look at Nya Li's group of 3 and solemnly said, "Did you guys hear that? Our young master wants you to scram." Hearing the arrogant words of that heavenly access realm expert, Wiyazi was finally angered. Previously, there were people who tried to steal his things, and he'd killed dozens of them. His hands were still stained with blood, and yet another group of blind people had come. Whoosh! Wiyazi suddenly disappeared. That heavenly access realm expert suddenly felt a powerful aura locking onto him and a terrifying threat of death. At this moment, he wanted to break free, but found that he could not move at all. Suddenly, he felt a terrifying chill on his neck. He wanted to cry out, but found that he couldn't make a single sound. "Who did you say is trash?" Wiyazi's cold voice rang in his ears. He didn't know when, but Wiyazi had already appeared behind that heavenly access realm expert. Wiyazi's 2 fingers were wrapped around that heavenly access realm expert's throat. That heavenly access realm expert's neck was twisted and his corpse fell from the sky. At the sight of this, the group of heavenly access realm experts under Long Tianming immediately roared, "How dare you! Kill him!" Over 30 heavenly access realm experts pounced towards Wiyazi. Wiyazi glanced at Nieli and Xiaoyu and said, "You guys move further away." He charged towards the group of heavenly access realm experts. Bang! 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 A chaotic battle broke out. Although Wiyazi was surrounded by over 30 heavenly access realm experts, he didn't seem to be at a disadvantage. On the contrary, he managed to kill quite a few heavenly access realm experts. Xiaoyu looked at Nieli and asked, "Nieli, you did this on purpose, didn't you?" "Of course." Nieli nodded. "Then should we leave quickly?" Xiaoyu asked. She thought that Nieli wanted these people to stall Wiyazi and then escape. Nieli smiled. "No need. We haven't even entered the void illusionary divine palace yet. Why would we return so early? Since your goal is to enter the void illusionary divine palace, why are you stirring up trouble?" The leader on the other side. "It looks like Long Tianming." Xiaoyu looked into the distance and said, "Could it be that you have some enmity with Long Tianming and want to use Wiyazi to teach him a lesson?" "I don't have any enmity with him, but I've thought about it carefully. There are a lot of things that Long Tianming can't escape from. I have a feeling that he's plotting against us in the dark." Nieli said after some thought. He had a feeling that Long Tianming was like a hidden scorpion. He'd rather be like Guhang. Nieli wasn't afraid of Long Tianming if he fought openly. However, it was impossible to guard against someone like Long Tianming who was playing tricks in the dark. In his previous life, when the Hagami Munyan split up, Long Tianming was the only one who benefited. Therefore, Nieli was much more guarded against Long Tianming than he was against Guhang and the rest. As long as there was an opportunity, Nieli wouldn't let go of the chance to weaken Long Tianming. No matter how strong the Yaoshan sect was, they'd still have to pay a painful price if they wanted to destroy the Hagami Munyan. The greatest threat to the Hagami Munyan came from within. Nieli looked into the distance and saw Wiyazi crazily fighting against the 30-odd heavenly access realm experts under Long Tianming. His speed was so fast that the blood of the heavenly access realm experts splattered as their corpses fell from the sky. Even after killing 7, Wiyazi still seemed to be getting more and more valiant as he fought. The divine blooded raccoon clan's bloodline was full of energy. Li could sense that Wyazi's cultivation was around 7th stage heavenly access realm. Adding on the fact that he had the primordial bloodline, he'd be extremely difficult to deal with for Long Tianming and the rest. In the distance, Long Tianming furrowed his brows. He had a rough idea of what was going on. However, that subordinate of his had just said that there were only 3 heavenly fate realm experts. Where did such a powerful expert come from? The other party's strength seemed to be quite impressive. Long Tianming glanced at Li and Xiaoyu, then said in a solemn voice, "Kill those 2 first." A heavenly access realm expert pounced towards Li and Xiaoyu. Although Wyazi was dealing with Long Tianming's heavenly access realm experts, he'd also split a strand of his intent to pay attention to Li and Xiaoyu. He'd helped Li and Xiaoyu complete the demon blood sacrifice so that they could enter the void illusionary divine palace. If Li and Xiaoyu died, wouldn't all his previous efforts be for naught? Wyazi, who was surrounded, suddenly disappeared and reappeared in front of Li and Xiaoyu. His right hand grabbed the heavenly access realm expert that was pouncing towards Li and Xiaoyu. With a little bit of force, the heavenly access realm expert's neck snapped. Long Tianming's heart trembled at the sight of this. This was the Raccoon Clan's secret technique. This demon clan youth before him must have a high position in the clan. This heavenly access realm demon clan youth was desperately protecting the other 2 demon clan youths behind him. From the looks of it, the other 2 demon clan youths must have quite a high position in the Yaoshin sect. Long Tianming was inwardly vexed. He'd been keeping a low profile along the way. How did he still get into trouble? Chapter 382. Stop! Long Tianming called out to his subordinates, who were about to charge forward. Then he leapt in front of them. Long Tianming slightly cupped his hands towards Li and the other 2 and said, "What happened just now might have been a misunderstanding. I hope the 3 of you can forgive me. The 3 of you didn't suffer any injuries. So let's forget about this matter. How about it?" Wyazi's brows twitched at Long Tianming's words. He coldly snorted and said, "It seems like you're the one in charge. This young master was just here. Who do your subordinates think they are? How dare they tell this young master to scram?" Long Tianming furrowed his brows and said, "My subordinates have offended you. However, Your Excellency killed 9 of our people in one go. Isn't that a little too heavy-handed?" Long Tianming said with a frown. Long Tianming didn't want to cause trouble, but if Wyazi still wanted to pursue the matter, then he wouldn't give in. He was a little angry that 9 of his subordinates had been killed. Wyazi snorted at Long Tianming's words. "Too heavy-handed? That's considered light. If we weren't strong enough, would you be speaking to us so courteously? The 3 of us would have been killed long ago. I can only say that your 9 subordinates deserved to die." Li faintly smiled. Wyazi had a fiery temper. The more Long Tianming confronted Wyazi, the more Wyazi wouldn't let the matter rest. Long Tianming was so angry that his breathing quickened. However, after thinking about it, he endured it. The most important thing right now was to find the entrance to the void illusionary divine palace. He didn't have time to tangle with Wyazi. "Friend, no matter who's right or wrong, you didn't suffer any losses. I don't want to pursue this matter any further. Let's end it here. How about it?" Wyazi shrugged and said, "Do as you please. This place belongs to me anyway. As long as you scram, it'll be fine." Long Tianming's lungs were about to explode at Wyazi's words. Long Tianming clenched his fists so tightly that the veins on his arms popped out. "Young master, let's kill those 3 arrogant bastards. Does he really think that we're afraid of him?" Long Tianming's subordinates were in an uproar. They wanted to besiege Wyazi. "This young master is not afraid of fighting. As long as you dare to come up, this young master will kill you one by one and send you back." Weazi also very arrogantly said he was from the demon raccoon race. Those with primordial bloodlines had the qualifications to be so arrogant. Long Tianming wasn't sure how strong Weazi was, although he had a certain amount of confidence in his dragon bloodline god level demon spirit. He didn't dare to take the risk. However, if they were to just run away like that, even Long Tianming would be affected. It was hard for him to raise his head in front of his subordinates. You can scram now. Nye Li looked at Long Tianming and the others in front of him. He had been observing Long Tianming the entire time. Long Tianming's endurance was indeed much stronger than the other disciples of the aristocratic families. However, with Weazi's excessive request, Long Tianming probably couldn't tolerate it. When he heard Nye Li's words, Long Tianming's face turned ashen. When had he ever been reprimanded by a heavenly fate realm? Long Tianming took a deep look at Weazi. Nye Li dared to be so arrogant because he had absolute confidence in Weazi's cultivation. Weazi was from the demon raccoon race, so he had many powerful secret techniques. If they were to fight, Long Tianming wasn't confident in his victory. Let's go. Long Tianming coldly snorted and flew away. The Heavenly Axis realm experts beside Long Tianming were so angry that their faces turned red. Leaving just like that was simply too shameful. However, they didn't dare to disobey Long Tianming's words. Although they were angry and ashamed, they still followed behind him. The group of people turned around and left. Together with Long Tianming, they moved several kilometers away. Nye Li looked at Long Tianming's back and his gaze deepened. He didn't expect that Long Tianming would be able to endure such an unreasonable request. He really wasn't simple. This person was definitely harder to deal with than he'd imagined. Weazi spat as he looked at Long Tianming's back. I never thought that he'd be scared off so easily. Humans are indeed cowards. Weazi turned around and saw Xiao Yu glaring at him. Nye Li was also looking at him with a smile that wasn't a smile. Nye Li awkwardly smiled and said, I'm not talking about you guys. Although Weazi was stronger than Weazi, he wasn't very scheming. Although he knew that Weazi would definitely deal with him and Xiao Yu after coming out of the void illusionary divine palace, Nye Li had never considered Weazi to be an opponent. On the contrary, Nye Li felt an intense sense of danger from Long Tianming. All right, this place belongs to us. Weazi scanned his surroundings. Are you sure the entrance is nearby? I'll look around first. Nye Li said, Anyway, it's not time yet. Long Tianming's group stood off in the distance. One of Long Tianming's subordinates angrily said, Young master, I'm not convinced. Although that demon is strong, we might not necessarily be his match. Why did he run away with his tail between his legs? Long Lu, do you have a problem with my decision? Long Tianming coldly glanced at Long Lu and asked in a deep voice. No, this subordinate wouldn't dare. Long Lu was trembling with fear. That demon youth is from the Raccoon clan. I don't know if he's from the Nine Nether clan or if he's a divine-blooded raccoon. Either way, if we really fought, the outcome would be hard to predict. Don't forget why we're here. Long Tianming's gaze turned cold. That brat is indeed a little arrogant. He's already stepping on our heads. However, there's no need to fight them head-on. After all, they're also looking for the entrance to the void illusionary divine palace. They must have discovered something by taking our place. If they've found the entrance, then all we have to do is keep an eye on them. Long Tianming's subordinates' eyes lit up at his words. The young master is wise. Nye Li looked into the distance. Although Long Tianming's group had moved a few miles away, they hadn't gone too far. They were still looking at him from afar. Nye Li's lips curled into a smile as he quickly understood Long Tianming's intentions. Long Tianming was indeed a difficult person to deal with. He was very scheming. Unfortunately, Long Tianming had bumped into him. If Long Tianming had just left, then nothing would have happened. However, Since he was still here, it was only a matter of time before he fell into a trap. Time slowly passed as Li continued to observe the rainbow barrier around the void, illusionary divine palace. Wiyazi anxiously looked at Li and asked, "How is it?" "Don't worry. I've already found the entrance to the 1,000 illusionary array," Li said with a faint smile. In fact, there were hundreds of entrances to the 1,000 illusionary array. It was easy to enter. The key was whether or not they could walk out of the array after entering. Wiyazi's face lit up at Li's words. He asked, "Can we enter now?" "Follow me," Li said as he flew towards the 1,000 illusionary array. In the distance, Long Tianming's group stood there. "Young master, they're making a move. They're getting ready to enter." Long Lu immediately became spirited. "Everyone follow them." A cold light flashed through Long Tianming's eyes. Chapter 383. There's a bunch of flies following us. Should we get rid of them? Wiyazi furrowed his brows. He had already let Long Tianming's group go, but he didn't expect that Long Tianming's group would still be so relentless. No need. Let them follow us. We'll deal with them inside the 1,000 illusionary array. Li smiled and shook his head. "Follow me." Li dove into the 1,000 illusionary array with Xiao Yu following closely behind. Wiyazi looked back at Long Tianming's group and snorted. Then he dove into the 1,000 illusionary array with Li and Xiao Yu. The three of them disappeared at the same time. Seeing this scene, Long Lu looked at Long Tianming and said anxiously, "Young master, they really do know the entrance to the 1,000 illusionary array." "I see it." Long Tianming's eyes flashed with a trace of splendor as he said in a low voice, "Everyone follow!" Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The group also dove into the 1,000 illusionary array very quickly. Li's group of 3 entered the 1,000 illusionary array. The surroundings were constantly changing illusions. Sometimes it was a forest, sometimes it was a grassland, and sometimes it was an abyss. As expected of the 1,000 illusionary array, Wiyazi couldn't help sighing in his heart. He had already completely lost his sense of direction inside the 1,000 illusionary array. If not for Li leading, he wouldn't know where to go. The 1,000 illusionary array had a total of over 1,000 transformations. Li carefully sensed the changes in the aura in the array. He glanced at Wiyazi and Xiao Yu and said with a slight smile, "Follow me. We'll teach those flies a lesson first." Long Tianming's group entered the 1,000 illusionary array. Everything here was ever-changing, causing them to completely lose their sense of direction. "Where are those 3 people?" Long Tianming frowned. At this time, Li's group of 3 could no longer be seen in the 1,000 illusionary array. "Damn it, I actually lost them." After entering this 1,000 illusionary array, Long Tianming and the rest became dizzy and disoriented, not knowing where to go. More than 20 people traversed through the 1,000 illusionary array. At this moment, a figure flashed past the back of the group. A heavenly Axis realm expert didn't even have the time to react before he was killed. He fell to the ground. What happened? Long Tianming turned around and frowned. He sensed Wiyazi's aura, but by the time he reacted, there was only a corpse left on the ground. As for Wiyazi, it had already disappeared without a trace. That Wiyazi was borrowing the power of the 1,000 illusionary formation to deal with them. Long Tianming was extremely depressed. After entering the 1,000 illusionary array, they were completely blind. They didn't even know where Wiyazi and the others were. Puff! Another heavenly Axis realm expert behind Long Tianming was killed. By the time Long Tianming turned around, he discovered that Wiyazi had already disappeared without a trace. Bastard! Long Tianming couldn't help cursing. He was about to go crazy from anger as he shouted, "Everyone form a defensive array. Be careful of a sneak attack." At this moment, 200 meters away from Long Tianming's group, Li's group was quietly standing. Wuyazi was convinced by Nieli. He looked at Long Tianming's group, who were nervously looking around. He couldn't help but ask Nieli, "How did you do it? Why can't they see us when we're so close to them?" Nieli lightly smiled and said, "The mysteries of the 1,000 illusionary array aren't limited to just this. Could it be that you really know the 1,000 illusionary array like the back of your hand?" Wuyazi asked in disbelief. After all, this was an array laid down by an ancient almighty expert. "As long as you give me enough materials, I'll be able to set up an array like the 1,000 illusionary array." Nieli lightly smiled. Nieli looked at the void illusionary divine palace in the distance. The 1,000 illusionary array is only the most basic of the outer arrays. There are even more profound arrays inside after breaking through the 1,000 illusionary array. We have to break through all the arrays before we can enter the void illusionary divine palace. However, once we break through all the arrays outside, people from the various divine sects will rush in. Wuyazi couldn't help asking, "If that's the case, then wouldn't we have a share of the treasures inside the void illusionary divine palace?" Although Wuyazi's strength wasn't bad, there were experts from the various divine sects outside the void illusionary divine palace. That's why we have to break through the arrays first. First, we have to reap all the benefits. Nieli glanced at Long Tianming and narrowed his eyes. "Aside from that, we have to eliminate all possible threats." "I understand." Wuyazi nodded. He looked at Long Tianming in the distance and patted his chest. "Leave them to me." Wuyazi had the Raccoon Clan's secret technique. With Nieli's guidance in the 1,000 illusionary array, he was like a tiger that had grown wings. With a whoosh, he turned into a streak of light and charged towards Long Tianming and the others. Seeing Wuyazi make his move, Xiaoyu looked at Nieli and said, "Nieli, is it all right for us to tell Wuyazi so much? If Wuyazi makes a move against us, we won't have the ability to fight back. Don't worry. He won't do anything to us before we leave the void illusionary divine palace. With our strength, only death awaits us if we enter the void illusionary divine palace. We still have to rely on his strength." Nieli said. He knew that they were dancing on a tightrope. However, in order to increase their strength as quickly as possible, they had to take a gamble. PFFF. PFFF. Wuyazi consecutively killed 6 of Long Tianming's Heavenly Access Realm subordinates. "Bastard!" Long Tianming furiously roared. He circulated the energy within his body and blasted it towards Wuyazi. Boom! A berserk energy exploded, creating a huge crater in the ground. The Heavenly Access Realm experts nearby were sent flying. Wuyazi let out a muffled groan and disappeared from the 1,000 illusionary array. After a brief moment, he landed beside Nieli. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and said, "This person's strength is beyond my imagination." Nieli never imagined that Wuyazi would suffer a loss at Long Tianming's hands. He furrowed his brows. It seemed that he'd underestimated Long Tianming's strength too much. After exchanging blows with Wuyazi, Long Tianming only took 2 steps back. His entire body emitted a berserk aura as he scanned his surroundings and snorted. "Is that all the Raccoon Clan's people capable of? If you have the guts, come out and fight me to the death. What's the point of hiding like a rat?" Nieli glanced at Wuyazi and asked, "What's Long Tianming's strength?" Wuyazi shook his head and said, "I'm not too sure. I feel like he's in the 9th stage of the Heavenly Access Realm, but he's much stronger than an ordinary 9th stage Heavenly Access Realm. He's clearly a human, but why do I feel a trace of familiar demon blood energy? Could it be that the kid also had a demon clan helping him complete the demon blood sacrifice? And the strength of this demonic blood is not simple at all." Chapter 384. There's actually a trace of demon blood's energy within Long Tianming's body? How did you sense it? Nieli asked as he looked at Wuyazi. That trace of demon blood is hidden within his body. As long as he doesn't release it, No one will be able to sense it, not even martial ancestor realm experts. However, don't forget who I am. I am from the divine, blooded raccoon clan. Our ability to sense bloodlines isn't something that ordinary humans can compare to. Wyazi proudly said. Nya Li nodded his head. The divine, blooded raccoon clan was an extremely mysterious clan. Even Nya Li couldn't figure out the abilities of the divine, blooded raccoon clan. Even in some ancient records, there were very few descriptions of the divine, blooded raccoon clan, unless an expert from the demon clan agreed and willingly helped. Humans wouldn't be able to obtain the power of the demon blood sacrifice. Could it be that an expert from the demon clan helped him complete the demon blood sacrifice? Wyazi bitterly smiled as he shook his head. I feel that his demon blood wasn't obtained through the demon blood sacrifice. I'm not too sure about the specifics. Nya Li looked at Wyazi and asked, Do you have any way to investigate it? Unless we tie him up and use our divine blooded raccoon clan's secret technique on him. However, that's too difficult. In our earlier exchange, I realized that I'm actually not that kid's opponent. Although I can protect myself, and if we really fight, I might not be any weaker than him when I use my bloodline's energy. However, it's practically impossible for me to capture him. Wyazi continued, Furthermore, I'm not too sure what level of power he'll be able to unleash once he merges with his demon spirit and activates the demon blood in his body. Hearing Wyazi's words, Nya Li went silent for a brief moment, then said, Then forget it. Kill all of his subordinates first. Leave him alone and let him fend for himself. It looked like killing Long Tianming was practically impossible. Since that was the case, then he'd let Wyazi do what he could. That's easy. Wait for my good news, Wyazi said and attacked again. Nya Li looked at the distant Long Tianming with a profound gaze. In his previous life, Hagami Munyan had split. It probably had something to do with Long Tianming. Later on, Long Tianming went to the ancestral godland. 100 years later, the ancestral godland was burnt to ashes by the golden flames. He wondered if it had anything to do with Long Tianming. Long Tianming had hidden himself very deeply. The deeper he dug, the more he discovered that Long Tianming wasn't simple. Nya Li could sense a faint threat coming from Long Tianming. Nya Li, what did you discover? Xiao Yu looked at Nya Li and asked. Nya Li's expression was a little strange. He had probably discovered something. It's fine. Just be careful of Long Tianming in the future, especially you. It's best if you don't come into contact with him as much as possible, said Nya Li. Why? Xiao Yu was a little surprised. Why her? Just listen to me, said Nya Li. Xiao Yu had her parents' consciousnesses hidden in her body. If Long Tianming discovered it, it might attract some trouble. There were some things that Nya Li didn't want to tell Xiao Yu. Why should I listen to you? There's not even a reason. Nya Li is a little too overbearing. Xiao Yu couldn't help muttering in her heart, but she still responded with an N. At this moment, Wyazi's side had already made their move. Although Long Tianming was stronger than Long Tianming, Wyazi was from the divine blooded raccoon clan. His speed wasn't something that Long Tianming could catch up to. After several sneak attacks, the people around Long Tianming fell one after the other. More than 30 people became more than 20, and then more than 10. In the end, only Long Tianming and Long Lu were left. Long Tianming was fuming with anger. He tried to grab hold of Wyazi several times, but all he could see was Wyazi's afterimage. Wyazi clearly didn't want to face Long Tianming head-on. Long Tianming couldn't defend against Wyazi's sneak attacks. The speed of the raccoon clan, it was simply unimaginable. Wyazi had actually killed all of his subordinates, leaving only Long Lu. Let's go, Long Tianming angrily said as he flew away with Long Lu and disappeared. Wyazi landed beside Nya Li and Xiao Yu. He shrugged his shoulders and said, I've dealt with those that I could. The remaining two are a little troublesome. Forget it. Looking at Long Tianming and Long Lu's sorry figures, Nya Li couldn't help smiling. This was probably the biggest loss Long Tianming had ever suffered. His fight with Long Tianming had only just begun. All right, let's go. Nya Li smiled as he looked at Wuyazi and Xiaoyu. Follow me. Don't fall behind by more than 3 meters. Otherwise, don't blame me if you lose them. Under Nya Li's lead, the 3 of them headed towards the heart of the 1,000 illusionary soul array. Outside the 1,000 illusionary soul array, people from various sects were arriving one after another. There were even quite a few Tao of Dragon Realm experts among them. Many people had heard of the Void Illusionary Divine Palace. They'd come here countless times in an attempt to break through the 1,000 illusionary soul array and enter the palace. However, most of them had failed. Some had given up, but there were others who'd come to explore the Void Illusionary Divine Palace every time it opened. Regardless of whether it was the 3 demonic sects or the 6 righteous sects, all of them were eyeing each other covetously. Hundreds of forces, at least 100,000 people, were searching for the entrance to the 1,000 illusionary soul array. Some people were lucky enough to find the 1,000 illusionary soul trap and fly in. There were also some people who were blocked by the 1,000 illusionary soul trap. However, even if someone managed to enter the 1,000 illusionary soul array, entering the Void Illusionary Divine Palace would be as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Long Tianming and Long Lu wandered around the Void Illusionary Divine Palace, completely lost in the array. They didn't know which way was north or south. They walked back and forth, but they were still stuck in the same place. They were on the verge of going crazy. Meanwhile, Xiaoyu and Wuyazi were led by Nya. The scenery around them constantly changed as the Void Illusionary Divine Palace drew closer and closer. Wuyazi was incomparably shocked. The 1,000 illusionary soul array was practically nothing to Nya. Nya had said that he could arrange the 1,000 illusionary soul array, but he didn't know if it was true or not. Roughly an hour later, Nya, Xiaoyu, and Wuyazi stood in a huge ancient array. 5 or 6 towering stone pillars stood before the array. The outer palace of the Void Illusionary Divine Palace was right in front of the array. Although they hadn't truly entered the Void Illusionary Divine Palace, they could already feel a terrifying pressure. Even Wuyazi couldn't help but feel a sense of respect from his dignified aura. Although he didn't know which almighty expert had arranged the Void Illusionary Divine Palace, Wuyazi didn't dare to act rashly. He even spoke cautiously. There might still be some almighty experts remnant within the Void Illusionary Divine Palace. It wasn't just Wuyazi. Nya and Xiaoyu were the same. Nya raised his head to look at the majestic building before them and said, "Once we're inside, you still have to listen to me. Don't wander around. Otherwise, don't blame me if you die." Nya was exceptionally serious. Chapter 385. After hearing Nya Li's words, both Wuyazi and Xiaoyu felt a chill in their hearts. Nya Li's expression was much more solemn than before. Wuyazi and Xiaoyu also turned serious as they focused on their surroundings. Nya Li stood in the middle of the pillars and saw a faint silhouette appear in the air. It was like a transparent wall that stood before them, preventing them from taking a step forward. Nya Li quickly wrote inscription patterns. Each inscription pattern blossomed with a dazzling radiance, forming a huge inscription pattern array that was reflected in the transparent wall. Boom! The inscription pattern array in the sky exploded, and a majestic impact swept out. The surrounding 5 pillars shook violently, and the pillars were quickly covered with cracks. The earth rumbled as if there was an earthquake. He saw that the transparent wall in front of him had been torn open. The Void Illusionary Divine Palace's defensive barrier had been broken. "Follow me," Nya Li said in a solemn voice as he leapt into the hole. Whoosh! Wuyazi and Xiaoyu followed suit. The earth violently trembled as the 5 stone pillars toppled to the ground. The mountains surrounding the Void Illusionary Divine Palace crumbled into pieces. The 1,000 illusionary soul bewildering array continued to collapse. At this time, the experts gathered outside the 1,000 illusionary soul trap were shocked to see this scene. What's going on? What's going on? They'd explored the void illusionary divine palace in the past, but nothing like this had ever happened. They looked into the distance and saw the 1,000 illusionary soul bewildering array crumbling. The Yao Shen sect's experts stared at the crumbling 1,000 illusionary soul bewildering array with ecstatic expressions on their faces. The 1,000 illusionary soul bewildering array has been broken. Everyone get ready. We're going to kill our way into the void illusionary divine palace. Send someone to inform the ancestors that the 1,000 illusionary soul bewildering array outside the void illusionary divine palace has been broken. Tell them to send reinforcements. The experts of Hagami Munmin, the Skyblaze sect, and the other holy sects were also overjoyed. Because of the 1,000 illusionary soul bewildering array, they couldn't even take half a step towards the void illusionary divine palace. But now that the 1,000 illusionary soul bewildering array had been broken, they had a chance to enter the void illusionary divine palace. It was rumored that the void illusionary divine palace hid the treasures of a supreme expert. He was the first to enter the void illusionary divine palace. He would definitely be able to obtain even more good stuff. The moment the 1,000 illusionary soul bewildering array shattered, countless figures turned into streaks of light and charged towards the void illusionary divine palace. Everyone wanted to be the first to enter the void illusionary divine palace. Bang, bang, bang. Several explosions could be heard. Those streaks of light all collided with a transparent, illusory barrier. Ouch, what is this? Many people hadn't noticed the transparent barrier. Therefore, when they charged in, they directly collided with the barrier and ended up in a miserable state. There was actually a barrier outside the void illusionary divine palace. That barrier was extremely hard. It wasn't something that an ordinary heavenly star realm or heavenly axis realm expert could break through. The only way to enter the void illusionary divine palace was to break through that barrier. Tens of thousands of people were blocked by the barrier. They were extremely depressed. They'd originally thought that the 1,000 illusionary soul bewildering array was gone. They could finally enter, but they never thought that there would be another barrier. Everyone started to ponder how to break it. Long Tianming and Long Lu stood outside the barrier. Long Tianming's brows were tightly knitted. He never expected that the 1,000 illusionary soul bewildering array would be broken. He recalled how Wiyazi's group of 3 had been able to freely shuttle through the 1,000 illusionary soul bewildering array. He guessed that the 1,000 illusionary soul bewildering array's destruction had something to do with Wiyazi's group of 3. Could it be that Wiyazi's group of 3 really broke the 1,000 illusionary soul bewildering array? Long Tianming stared at the void illusionary divine palace through the transparent barrier. Perhaps Wiyazi's group of 3 had already entered the void illusionary divine palace. Indeed, it was just as Long Tianming had thought. Nye Li had used a special inscription pattern array to open a hole in the void illusionary divine palace's barrier. Nye Li's group of 3 had already entered. Void illusionary divine palace's outer hull roar. Gigantic demon beasts pounced towards Nye Li's group of 3 from all directions. The boundless aura was like a torrential flood. Wiyazi anxiously barked, "Not good. It's a lightning beast. I'm not their match. Run." The lightning beasts were at least Tao of dragon realm existences. Facing so many lightning beasts, even if it was Wiyazi, only death awaited him. Xiao Yu's face also paled. She could sense that the aura wasn't something she could fight against. However, Nye Li casually smiled and said, "Restrain your mind and maintain your original state of mind. Don't worry about those beasts." Wiyazi anxiously said, "The beasts are about to pounce on us. Why aren't you worried? Are you courting death?" Nye Li said as he dashed forward, "Those are just illusions." Weazi was stunned by Nye Li's words, but he quickly retracted his mind. Those lightning beasts were just illusions. Roar! The lightning beasts passed through Nye Li's body, not harming Nye Li in the slightest. Weazi and Xiao Yu calmed their minds and followed suit. Sure enough, they were just illusions. Those lightning beasts are like living creatures. How can you tell that they're fake? Weazi asked in doubt. He couldn't understand why Nye Li could always see the essence behind the illusions. Nye Li faintly smiled. Even if I told you, you wouldn't understand. Let's not talk about it. Even if I don't understand, it's still better than not knowing. Weazi's heart was filled with curiosity, but he still pursued the matter. I'll tell you after we leave the void, illusionary divine palace. Right now, we still have things to do, Nye Li said as he turned around and continued flying. Weazi opened his mouth at Nye Li's words, but he didn't say anything. He bitterly smiled in his heart. He was prepared to kill Nye Li and Xiao Yu once they left the void, illusionary divine palace. Along the way, Nye Li's various miracles left Weazi gasping in amazement. Weazi even hesitated. Should he kill Nye Li after this matter with the void, illusionary divine palace? If he didn't kill him, he was worried that the demon blood sacrifice would be leaked. If he killed him, he felt that it wasn't worth it to offend someone like Nye Li. Weazi's heart was filled with contradictions. Nye Li noticed the subtle changes in Weazi's expression. The corner of his mouth curled into a faint smile, but he didn't say anything and continued flying. After flying for a while, Nye Li landed at the entrance of one of the side palaces. He didn't stop for even a moment and walked inside. Although he was outside the building, Nye Li could already sense the dense, heavenly energy around the side palace. There must be some treasures hidden in this side palace. Chapter 386. Stepping into the side chamber, they saw stone pillars that were over 10 meters tall and a wide hall with a circumference of 100 meters. On the ground, on the stone pillars, and within the hall, there were mysterious inscription patterns everywhere. These inscription patterns were like spider webs that covered every inch of the place. In the hall, there were dozens of boxes made of pure gold scattered around. The boxes were tightly shut and no one knew what was inside. The surface of the boxes were embedded with night pearls that were dazzling and incomparably gorgeous. With one look at these boxes, one could tell that the things inside weren't simple. Weazi's eyes lit up when he saw the boxes. He wanted to go over and open the boxes scattered on the ground. Nye Li extended his hand to stop Weazi and solemnly said, "Are you courting death?" "What's wrong?" Weazi asked as he looked at Nye Li in doubt. The inscription patterns on the ground, walls, and stone pillars are the Heavenlock inscription formation. Once you take a wrong step, these inscription patterns will transform into numerous shapeless chains that will directly lock you up, causing you to be unable to breathe, and in the end, you'll die of exhaustion. Nye Li solemnly said, "With these inscription patterns, not to mention a heavenly access realm, even a Tao of Dragon Realm expert would be instantly killed." Weazi looked at the densely packed inscription patterns in the hall, and his heart trembled. He pondered a while and asked, "Then can we fly through the air?" "You can try," Nye Li said as he looked at Weazi with a smile that wasn't a smile. Weazi pondered a while and looked at Nye Li. "Then doesn't that mean that we won't be able to open these chests?" "These chests are overflowing with heavenly energy, so there should be extraordinary treasures in them. Wouldn't it be a pity to let them go?" "I said that we can't wander around, but I didn't say that we can't get them. I already told you that since we're here, you have to listen to me. If we get the treasures, how are we going to split them?" Nye Li asked as he looked at Weazi. "I won't do it if we split them in half." Weazi was silent for a moment. Then he raised his head and said, "You choose first. 60% should be enough, right?" In any case, once he left the void, illusionary divine palace, he'd kill Nye Li and Xiao Yu. After all, Nye Li and Xiao Yu had chosen something. He would take it all back, so it didn't matter if Nye Li and Xiao Yu took it. Let's not talk about who chose it. I counted. There are a total of 26 golden jade treasure chests in the Heaven Lock inscription formation. I don't know what's hidden inside. Whoever opens it will get the item. What do you think? Nya Li looked at Wiyazi and said. Wiyazi thought about it and decisively agreed. Sure. Nya Li instructed Wiyazi. Good. Now listen to me. Take 7 steps forward, 3 steps to the right, and 6 steps forward. Each step should be a meter apart. Wiyazi looked at Nya Li, then back at the inscription pattern formation. Is this really okay? You're not lying to me, right? This place was filled with Heaven Lock inscription patterns. If he took a single wrong step, he'd be bound to death by the inscription pattern chains. What if Nya Li wanted to harm him? Don't worry. We won't gain anything from killing you. We're both in the heavenly fate realm. Even if we get the treasures, we won't be able to leave the void illusionary divine palace. If we get killed on the way out, the treasures will be taken by others. We won't do something so stupid. Nya Li said. Wiyazi thought about it. Nya Li's words made sense. Without his protection, 2 heavenly fate realm experts wouldn't be able to enter the void illusionary divine palace. He definitely wouldn't be able to enter the void illusionary divine palace. His death wouldn't do Nya Li any good. All right. Wiyazi followed Nya Li's instructions and walked step by step. Just as Nya Li had said, the inscription patterns on the ground didn't activate. Nya Li walked towards a golden jade treasure chest, lowered his head and opened it. When the chest opened, a golden armored puppet suddenly appeared and threw a punch at Wiyazi. This golden armored puppet was at least in the heavenly axis realm. Wiyazi jumped in fright when he opened the chest, but didn't find any treasures. He immediately threw a punch at the golden armored puppet. Boom! A powerful shockwave spread out. Although the golden armored puppet had the strength of a 5-stage heavenly axis realm, it was still lacking compared to Wiyazi. It was shattered by Wiyazi's punch. Wiyazi patted his chest, let out a long sigh, and said, That scared me. There's no treasure in this chest at all, and I was almost killed by this damn thing. The master of the void illusionary divine palace must be joking with you. Nya Li smiled. Stay where you are. I'll let Xiaoyu go up. There's no treasure in this chest, only this damn thing. You're only in the heavenly fate realm. Aren't you afraid of being killed? Wiyazi yelled. It's safer to leave these chests to me. I've already opened the first chest. If you dare to take another step, I guarantee that you'll die a horrible death. Nya Li curled his lips. You can only leave after opening the second chest. Xiaoyu, go up and do as I say. Xiaoyu nodded her head. She didn't know if the second chest would contain the golden armored puppet, but she'd gained confidence in Nya Li along the way. She didn't doubt Nya Li's words at all. At worst, she'd just die. 3 forward, 6 to the left, 2 to the back, 3 to the left. Nya Li instructed Xiaoyu. Xiaoyu walked over and slowly arrived before the second box. She cautiously opened the second box. In an instant, the chest shone with the aura of treasures as boundless heavenly energy poured out. It's actually gold spiritual stone essence. Xiaoyu exclaimed in shock as she looked inside the chest. And there are at least 10 pieces. Gold spiritual stone essence was an extremely rare item. It could be used for cultivation like ordinary spiritual stones. 1 piece of gold spiritual stone essence was equivalent to hundreds of spiritual stone essence, which was equivalent to 100,000 ordinary spiritual stones. It could also be used to forge treasures. The treasures forged from it would be at least 8th or 9th grade. Over the past tens of thousands of years, the heavenly energy had become thinner and thinner. Even the spiritual stone essence had become less abundant, let alone gold spiritual stone essence. More than 10 pieces of precious gold spiritual stone essence. This was definitely an astonishing amount of wealth. Wiyazi's eyes instantly turned red. Even 1 piece of gold spiritual stone essence was extremely rare, let alone 10 pieces. Xiao Yu stored the dozen pieces of gold spiritual stone essences into his spatial ring. Seeing the 10 pieces of gold spiritual stone essence all enter Xiao Yu's spatial ring, Weazi couldn't help but comfort himself. In any case, the things in Xiao Yu's spatial ring would sooner or later be his. Thinking of this, he felt a little better. Hurry up, is it time to open the third chest? Weazi said anxiously. He couldn't wait to open another chest. The third chest should be my turn. Niali glanced at Weazi, then walked step by step towards the third chest. Chapter 387. This Heaven Lock inscription pattern array is something that Niali has already thoroughly researched in the Temporal Demon Spirit book in his previous life. Lines of densely packed inscription patterns were reconstructed in Niali's mind. Basically, Niali is very clear about where the hidden traps are and where the safest places are. As for earlier, when he told Weazi that one wrong step would trigger the Heaven Lock inscription pattern, it was a complete lie. Weazi is still in the dark. He was probably scared by Niali. One wrong step, and he would be trapped to death by the Heaven Lock inscription pattern array. How would he dare to move? Niali stood in front of the third treasure chest. This treasure chest is located at the most important location of the Heaven Lock inscription pattern array. The surroundings are filled with dense traps, and the security is the tightest. Therefore, there's a high possibility that the most important treasure is hidden in this treasure chest. Niali lowered his head and saw that the treasure chest was densely covered with mysterious inscription patterns. It's a little different from the treasure chests that Xiao Yu and Weazi opened. The treasure chest in front of him even has an inscription pattern lock. If an ordinary person doesn't open the inscription pattern lock first, they would trigger the trap first. Niali continued to write inscription patterns. Inscription patterns landed on the treasure chest, and the inscription pattern lock on the treasure chest opened. Bit by bit, Xiao Yu and Weazi were dumbfounded. If it was them, they definitely wouldn't be able to open this complicated inscription pattern lock. With a click, the inscription pattern lock completely opened. Niali bent down and slowly opened the treasure chest. In an instant, the treasure aura was dazzling. The heavenly energy surged and instantly filled the entire side hull. Feeling this surging energy, Weazi's eyeballs almost popped out. Just what kind of treasure is this, to actually have such majestic heavenly energy? Niali lowered his head and saw a piece of jade lying quietly in the treasure chest. This piece of jade has some mysterious demon beasts carved on it. It looked simple and unadorned, yet majestic. Seeing this unadorned piece of jade, Niali was stunned for a moment before a trace of emotion flashed through his eyes. He never thought that he would actually find this treasure here. Legend has it that in this world, there are 10 pieces of evil warding jade strips. These 10 pieces are scattered all over the place. Occasionally, someone would find one and it would lead to an intense fight. The evil warding jade slips were created by the human race's primogenitor. Each evil warding jade slip contained 36,000 inscription patterns. These 36,000 inscription patterns all have different uses. The majority of the inscription patterns are used to suppress the demon race. With the evil warding jade strip, the moment Niali activates the evil warding jade strip, the evil warding jade strip will be destroyed. The demon clan's aura will be suppressed by Niali, and their strength will be weakened by at least 30%. Furthermore, once Niali imbues the inscription pattern inscription into the demon clan's body, he can suppress the demon clan's bloodline. Furthermore, the evil warding jade strip has many other uses. Even some ancient records wouldn't be able to suppress the demon race bloodline. This item is out of the ordinary. With a wave of his right hand, Niali stored the evil warding jade strip into the myriad miles, rivers, and mountains painting. Even if he was killed by Weazi after obtaining this evil warding jade strip, it would still be worth it. It was worth it. Weazi hastily shouted, "Hey, hey, hey! I haven't even seen what treasure you found. Why did you put it away?" Nya, Li didn't even want to let him see it. The surge of heavenly energy earlier proved that the treasure that Nya Li had found was definitely not ordinary. Nya Li had kept it so quickly that he didn't even get a clear look at what it was. Nya Li waved his hand and said, "It's just a very ordinary item. There's no need to look at it." Wiyazi had a bitter expression on his face. Nya Li is really too inhumane. But no matter what Nya Li found, it's still mine in the end. He thought about it and decided to let it go. He suppressed the curiosity in his heart and said, "Can I open the fourth treasure chest now? And listen to me. 3 to the left, 6 to the right." Nya Li started directing Wiyazi. Wiyazi walked to the fourth chest, lowered his head, and opened it. Whoosh! A golden puppet drilled out of the chest and pounced at Wiyazi. Wu Yazi's fist landed on the golden puppet's body, and a loud boom rang out. The golden puppet was smashed into pieces by Wiyazi. It was another golden puppet. Apart from that, the chest was empty. There was nothing inside. Wiyazi was on the verge of tears. Why was this happening? Why were the chests that Nya Li and Xiaoyu opened all filled with astonishing treasures, while the chests that he opened all contained puppets? Wiyazi looked at Nya Li resentfully and said gloomily, "You're definitely doing this on purpose." "Wiyazi, are you trying to act shamelessly? These 20 chests haven't even been opened. So how do I know what's inside are puppets or treasures? We agreed that we'll open one each, and everyone will rely on their luck. Furthermore, that chest with an inscription pattern lock, even if I gave it to you, you wouldn't be able to open it either." Nya Li looked at Wiyazi and said, "Xiao, you couldn't help finding it funny in her heart." She could also tell that Nya Li was purposely messing with Wiyazi. Otherwise, she and Nya Li wouldn't have both opened treasures. While Wiyazi opened 2 chests consecutively, and both of them were puppets. All right, I won't argue with you anymore." Wiyazi couldn't help muttering to himself. "At worst, I'll just let you guys keep the treasures for now. I'll just take them back when the time comes." What Wiyazi didn't know was that Nya Li's treasures had been stuffed into the myriad miles, rivers, and mountains painting. Even if Nya Li was killed, Wiyazi wouldn't be able to take them back. Nya Li knew what Wiyazi was planning, which was why he kept messing with Wiyazi. If it wasn't for the fact that he wanted to kill Nya Li once they left the void illusionary divine palace, Wiyazi would have flipped out a long time ago. How could he just watch as one treasure after another fell into Nya Li and Xiaoyu's pockets? Xiaoyu opened another chest, which contained a grade 7 artifact battle armor. A grade 7 artifact battle armor was worth at least 1,000,000 spiritual stones. Wiyazi's heart trembled with envy. Take it. I'll let you guys take as much as you want. They'll all be mine once we leave the void illusionary divine palace." Wiyazi's jealousy subsided a little. Nya Li opened the 5th treasure chest. It was a grade 7 artifact longsword. It was also quite valuable. However, with the Thunder God's meteorite sword, this grade 7 artifact longsword was not very useful. However, it was still better than nothing. Wiyazi's eyes nearly popped out of their sockets. He could only watch as Nya Li stored the grade 7 artifact longsword. Under Nya Li's guidance, he walked to the 7th chest and opened it. Another puppet pounced out. Wiyazi casually punched the golden puppet, shattering it. This time he was much calmer. After all, he'd already killed the golden puppet. Nothing else mattered to him. Nya Li shook his head and sighed. "Brother Wiyazi's luck is really bad. You've opened 3 chests in a row, and all of them were puppets." Wu Yazi's eyebrows twitched when he heard that. If it weren't for the fact that he had other plans in mind, he would have already jumped out to accuse Nya Li. Nya Li actually dared to make sarcastic remarks. Chapter 388. Wiyazi knew that Nya Li was messing with him, but he wasn't willing to say anything. He pretended that he didn't know anything. As for Nya Li, he was purposely provoking Wiyazi. Treasure chests were opened one after another. Each of them opened 5 chests. Nieli and Xiaoyu obtained several Grade 7 artifacts: gold spiritual stone essences, scarlet blood divine stones, and other extremely rare and valuable materials. As for Wuyazi, he obtained 5 puppets. Wuyazi wanted to cry, but no tears came out. Li didn't even leave a single treasure for him. This was simply inhumane. If he had known this would happen, he would have asked for a head count split. No matter what, he would have gotten at least a third, right? Li circled around the trap and walked to Xiaoyu's side. "Hand over the things you obtained to me for safekeeping. I'll return them to you when we get back." "Oh." Xiaoyu nodded and handed everything over to Nieli without hesitation. In any case, without Nieli, she wouldn't be able to obtain anything. Nieli also stuffed everything Xiaoyu obtained into the myriad miles, rivers, and mountains painting. Even if they were killed by Wuyazi, Nieli and Xiao, you wouldn't have to worry about Wuyazi snatching anything away. Nieli looked at Wuyazi and said, "Your luck just now was too bad. You didn't get anything. I'll leave the remaining 10 chests to you." Wuyazi looked at Nieli with a resentful gaze. Did Nieli have a conscience, or was he certain that the next 10 chests contained nothing good? No matter what, they still had to open the remaining 10 chests. Under Nieli's guidance, Wuyazi walked to a chest and opened it. A golden puppet jumped out. Boom! The golden puppet was killed by Wuyazi. The second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, it was filled with boxes filled with puppets. Wuyazi felt like he was going to suffer from depression. He opened 6 chests in a row. Finally, on the 6th chest, it wasn't a puppet. He saw that the chest was empty except for a piece of gold spirit stone essence at the bottom. A piece of gold spirit stone essence. Wuyazi burst into tears. Why did Nieli and Xiaoyu open boxes that contained at least a dozen yuan each? The 10 chests were all opened by Wuyazi. He only obtained a piece of gold spirit stone essence and 2 pieces of scarlet blood divine stone. These things were indeed very valuable outside. However, compared to what Nieli and Xiaoyu had obtained, the difference was too great. Not bad. Wuyazi, Xiaoyu, I'll command you to go close all the treasure chests. Nieli said after thinking for a moment. Why did you close the chest? It won't take long. A lot of people will enter the void illusionary divine palace soon. These chests can help us reduce some competition. Nieli said, although it wasn't very kind of him to do so, both the human and demon clans would enter the void illusionary divine palace. If they could trap the demon clan's experts, it would be considered a meritorious deed. Wuyazi and Xiaoyu understood Nieli's words. Under Nieli's command, they closed all the treasure chests. The 3 of them left the side chamber together. They flew in another direction. Along the way, they found quite a few treasures, including 50 to 60,000 pieces of spiritual stone essence. It was definitely a shocking amount of wealth. The area they'd searched wasn't even a 10th of the void illusionary divine palace. The items they found were basically divided into 3 portions, with each person taking 1 portion. Xiaoyu also handed the items she found to Nieli, who stuffed them into the myriad miles, rivers, and mountains painting. Wuyazi patted Nieli's shoulder and said, "Your brother is really loyal. He listens to everything you say. All the treasures he finds are also yours. He's such a good brother. You must treat him well." Nieli nodded and said, "Of course." Xiaoyu's face turned slightly red when she heard Wuyazi and Nieli's conversation. Nieli clearly knew that she was a girl. Why did he respond to Wuyazi's words? Nieli didn't think too much about it. He looked towards the center of the void illusionary divine palace and said, "I found the way in. Follow me." Wuyazi's eyes lit up at Nieli's words. They could finally enter the void illusionary divine palace's main hall. The 3 of them flew in. They landed in front of a stone door. Nieli said, "The entire void illusionary divine palace is a huge array. There are over 100 stone doors in the main hall, and this one is the life door. Therefore, it must be the entrance." There are so many stone doors. How did you determine that this is the life door? The entire void illusionary divine palace is an array? Why can't I see anything? Wiyazi's eyes widened. Although he wasn't a studious person, he still had some understanding of arrays. The Raccoon clan's inheritance contained a lot of knowledge regarding arrays. He'd already unlocked a portion of it, but he still couldn't tell how the void illusionary divine palace resembled an array. Just listen to me, Nyali said as he placed his hand on the stone door. The door slowly turned and opened. There weren't any inscription patterns or locks on the door. Looking ahead, there was a deep, dark passage that led to the depths of the palace. A gust of cold wind blew from the passage, causing one's hair to stand on end. Let's go, Nyali said as he calmly walked towards the passage. Xiao Yu followed closely behind Nyali. Wiyazi hesitated for a brief moment, but eventually followed suit. Roughly an hour later, the barrier outside the void illusionary divine palace shook from the violent explosions. The barrier finally couldn't hold on any longer. Without the protection of the 1,000 illusionary soul bewildering array, the barrier wouldn't be able to hold out against so many experts. Tens of thousands of experts used all sorts of methods to attack the barrier around the void illusionary divine palace. Finally, cracks started to appear on the barrier, and it rapidly shattered into pieces with a bang. The barrier's open. Let's go! Countless experts charged into the void illusionary divine palace. The experts formed groups and charged towards the side halls. The main hall was protected by a layer of energy, so they couldn't enter for the time being. They could only search for treasures around the side halls. It didn't take long before an intense battle broke out over the treasures. The best treasures in the side halls had already been taken by Nyali. However, the other side halls were filled with items that were of considerable value to the experts. Thus, they started fighting over them. Long Tianming and Long Lu also participated in the battle. However, there were too many opponents. Even with their strength, they could only snatch a few scattered spiritual stone essences. As far as he was concerned, there wasn't much point. That side hall has such dense heavenly energy. Long Tianming's eyes lit up as he looked into the distance. He brought Long Lu and flew towards the side hall. Over 100 experts from various sects had already gathered at the entrance of the side hall. In the center of the side hall, over 20 golden jade chests were emitting an alluring luster that made one's heart race. Chapter 389. Groups after groups of people rushed towards the side palace. Long Tianming and Long Lu were among them. Everyone was rushing towards the treasure chests in the side palace. Just at this moment, it was unknown who triggered the trap. With a loud bang, an inscription pattern array exploded, turning a few dozen experts into ashes. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Countless inscription pattern chains flew towards the experts in the side palace. In an instant, dozens of people were locked in the inscription pattern chains. Young master, watch out! Long Lu anxiously yelled as he stood in front of Long Tianming. He was bound by an inscription pattern chain and dragged away. Long Tianming glanced at Long Lu and furrowed his brows. He quickly retreated. He didn't know what those inscription pattern chains were, but even he didn't dare to touch them. He stood in place and watched Long Lu being dragged away. It was just the death of a subordinate. Furthermore, Long Lu could be revived. Long Tianming's eyes flickered. It looked like opening those chests wasn't going to be easy. At that moment, an army of thousands of Demon Clan experts appeared outside the void illusionary divine palace. Leading them was a youth clad in divine scarlet flame armor. His entire body was enveloped in blazing flames, and no one dared to get within 3 meters of him. His skin was completely red, and his brows were brimming with an untamed temperament. Heavenly energy formed a terrifying sea of blood around him, and his terrifying killing intent was suffocating. A Demon Clan expert clad in silver armor respectfully said, "Son of Fire, We still haven't found out who opened the 1,000 illusionary soul trap. There are over 100 entrances to the void illusionary divine palace, but we still haven't found the life gate. Whoever opened the 1,000 illusionary soul trap isn't simple. Send someone to inform the army to surround the void illusionary divine palace. We have half an hour to seal it, and no one is allowed to leave. If anyone tries to leave by force, kill without mercy. Son of Fire solemnly said. Yes, everyone, follow me into the void illusionary divine palace. Son of Fire said as he led the way into the void illusionary divine palace. At that moment, in the other side palaces, the experts of the various sects were currently fighting over the treasures. One of the Skyblaze sect's Heavenly Access Realm expert managed to snatch a few treasures and was currently being chased. The Son of Fire snorted coldly. One after another, fire dragons swept towards the Heavenly Access Realm expert of the Skyblaze sect. That Heavenly Access Realm expert was instantly engulfed by the fire dragons, unable to escape. The Son of Fire snorted coldly. Treasures of heaven and earth belong to those who are capable. He clenched his right fist. That Heavenly Access Realm expert instantly felt a terrifying, suffocating pressure. He tried countless times to break free from the fire dragon, but the blazing energy was like millions of needles, plunged into his body. Puff! Bang! That Heavenly Access Realm expert exploded. His spatial ring flew towards the Son of Fire. The eyebrows of the dozens of experts chasing after the Heavenly Access Realm expert twitched when they saw the scene. Damn it! Why is the Son of Fire here? When they saw the Son of Fire, they didn't even have any thoughts of fighting over the treasures. Fighting with the Son of Fire was simply courting death. The Son of Fire swept a glance at the people in the distance and coldly snorted. If you meet anyone from the 6 major sects of the human race, kill them without mercy. Everyone from the Yaoshin sect must have their interspatial rings checked. Anyone who has hidden treasures will also be killed without mercy. Yes. The demon clan experts behind the Son of Fire replied in unison. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Groups of demon clan experts charged towards the various side palaces. The moment the Son of Fire arrived, the battles in the various side palaces immediately intensified. The Son of Fire looked at the main hall in the distance and solemnly asked, "Are the masters here?" A subordinate respectfully replied, "Reporting to the Holy Sun, they'll be here soon." "The Holy Sun," Li Hui said. "When they arrive, immediately have them analyze the void illusionary divine palace's array and find the life gate." Divine flames blazed in his eyes as he stared ahead. "Yes." The subordinates replied. Roughly 50 miles away from the void illusionary divine palace, the thousands of people from the Skyblaze sect were also rapidly advancing. "Senior Brother Yenyang, we've just received news that the Yaoshan sect Son of Fire is leading a group of people towards the void illusionary divine palace ahead of us." Yenyang furrowed his brows for a brief moment. "Use the swift art and rush towards the void illusionary divine palace as fast as possible." Aside from the Yaoshin sect and the Skyblaze sect, there were also experts from several other forces rushing towards the void illusionary divine palace. In the secret passage of the main divine palace, Nelly and Xiao, you were slowly advancing, while Wiyazi fought a bloody battle in front of them. The secret passage was filled with blackwater venom spiders, all of which were at least in the Heavenly Star realm. Only a few were in the Heavenly Access realm, but their numbers were astonishing. Wiyazi was on the verge of collapsing. There was still a dense mass of blackwater venom spiders in front of them. Nieli had no idea where the secret passage ended. "Nieli, are you sure we're on the right path? Are we on the wrong path?" Wiyazi asked in a depressed manner as he continued to slay the blackwater venom spiders. "This path is absolutely on the right path. Don't worry, we're almost there," Nia Li said leisurely from behind. The Blackwater venom spiders were at least in the Heavenly Star realm, so there was no need for them to participate in the battle. Nya Li took out the green poison pearl and activated it. Traces of green aura gathered on the Blackwater venom spiders. The green poison pearl grew even more dazzling. Nya Li's eyes lit up when he saw the dazzling radiance of the green poison pearl. Wuyazi said gloomily, "Why do I feel like I've become your slave?" "You'll get a third of the treasures in the main hall, all right? I'm showing you the way. So what's wrong with you doing a little bit of work?" Nya Li said in a calm manner. Wuyazi thought about it and could only accept it. Indeed, without Nya Li's directions, he wouldn't even be able to enter the main hall. Although he'd become a slave, he could only accept his fate. "What kind of treasure is that in your hand?" Wuyazi couldn't help looking curiously at the green poison pearl hovering above Nya Li's palm. It seemed to be an extraordinary treasure. "You don't need to know that," Nya Li said indifferently. Wuyazi couldn't help feeling a little gloomy when he heard Nya Li's words. Nya Li wasn't willing to tell him anything. But then again, it made sense. They'd only met halfway, and they were just using each other. It was normal for Nya Li to be unwilling to tell him. Nya Li continued to activate the green poison pearl to absorb the Blackwater venom spider's toxins. With a thought, he took out Wuyazi's demon blood and started to write inscription patterns on the green poison pearl. He also took out some gold spiritual stone essence and poured traces of heavenly energy into the green poison pearl. Although the level of the green poison pearl was much lower than the Thunder God's meteorite sword, he could still use some unique methods to bring out some of the mysterious uses of the green poison pearl. After absorbing a large amount of toxins from the Blackwater venom spiders, the green poison pearl surged with energy. Chapter 390. Using heavenly energy and the inscription pattern array, Nya Li slowly established a connection with the green poison pearl. This treasure had some spirituality. Nya Li's right hand moved, and the green poison pearl shot out, bombarding a heavenly star rank Blackwater venom spider. PFFF. The green poison pearl directly blasted into the Blackwater poison spider's body. Very quickly, the Blackwater poison spider's entire body turned green. It staggered a few steps, then with a plop, it fell limply to the ground. With a thought from Nya Li, the green poison pearl flew out of the Blackwater venom spider's body and returned to his palm. After activating the green poison pearl's power, Nya Li no longer dared to touch it with his skin. The green poison pearl's poison was too strong. Even Nya Li himself couldn't resist it. Wuyazi's heart trembled as he looked at the green Blackwater venom spider lying on the ground. The pearl in Nya Li's hand looked quite frightening. He didn't dare to touch the Blackwater venom spider's poison anymore. However, Nya Li's green poison pearl could actually poison a Blackwater venom spider to death. Once he left the Void Illusionary Divine Palace, he'd have to pay attention to the pearl in Nya Li's hand if he wanted to fight with Nya Li. Aside from the green poison pearl, Nya Li also started to study the evil warding jade strip. He injected traces of heavenly energy into the evil warding jade strip and slowly established a connection with it. The evil warding jade strip could suppress the demon race's bloodline. It was perfect for dealing with Wuyazi. However, Nya Li now had demon blood in his body. Once he used the evil warding jade strip, he wouldn't be able to activate the demon blood anymore. After slowly establishing a connection with the evil warding jade strip, Nya Li felt that he could gradually control the 36,000 inscription patterns on the evil warding jade strip. Each of these 36,000 inscription patterns had their own uses. Nya Li could properly study them. Traces of mysterious power slowly seeped into Nya Li's body through the evil warding jade strip. Nya Li felt the power of the inscription patterns wrap around his fate soul, giving it a layer of protection. The power of various treasures. They converged together, causing Nya Li's soul realm to surge even more violently. Puff! Another fate soul was ignited. This time it was a silvery white one. The eighth fate soul. Ever since the demon warding jade strip had been used, Nya Li had advanced 3 ranks. Although the evil warding jade slip also played a part in this, there was no doubt that the primordial bloodline played a bigger role. Nya Li had many powerful treasures on him that ordinary heavenly fate realm experts wouldn't even be able to get their hands on. Any one of them would be enough for Nya Li to break through his current realm. Nya Li never thought that the 8th fate soul would be silvery white. Nya Li could feel that under the combined effect of the treasures, the expansion of his soul realm had reached an astonishing speed. He could still become stronger. Nya Li continued to increase his strength, constantly activating the evil warding jade strip. Mysterious inscription patterns continuously flowed within Nya Li's soul realm. His strength began to rush towards 9 fate. Mysterious inscription patterns shot towards the Shadow Devil Demon Spirit, the Fang Panda, and the Saint Bloodwing Dragon. Like chains, the inscription patterns bound the 3 demon spirits. The 3 demon spirits continued to struggle. What's going on? Nya Li's heart trembled. The Shadow Devil Demon Spirit, the Fang Panda, and the Saint Bloodwing Dragon were all demon spirits. If the evil warding jade strip had the ability to suppress demon beasts, wouldn't it be able to suppress these 3 demon spirits as well? Thinking of this, Nya Li immediately furrowed his brows and began to study the inscription pattern chains. If the 3 demon spirits were all trapped, what would happen to them? Thinking about it, the evil warding jade strip could suppress demon spirits, while the demon blood sacrifice could increase the strength of demon spirits. Could it be? Nya Li pondered for a brief moment and decided to use the power of the demon blood sacrifice. He injected the power of the demon blood sacrifice into the 3 demon spirits. After injecting traces of the demon blood sacrifice's power, the 3 demon spirits immediately began to violently struggle. The power of the primordial bloodline was simply unimaginable. After the demon blood sacrifice's power was injected, the 3 demon spirits' strength began to increase explosively. 8 fate, 9 fate. After reaching the pinnacle of 9 fate, the 3 demon spirits began to lose control of their strength. They frantically struggled, trying to break free from Nya Li's soul realm. Nya Li's vines continued to grow, pulling on the 3 demon spirits. However, they didn't stop. The power of the primordial bloodline was too strong. The demon spirit's strength continued to increase, reaching the 1-stage heavenly star realm. The 3 demon spirits violently struggled, and even the vines couldn't hold on any longer. But at this moment, the evil warding jade strip shone brightly, and inscription pattern chains locked onto the 3 demon spirits. The 3 demon spirits were still trapped in Nya Li's soul realm. As the strength of the demon spirits increased, they would surpass Nya Li's control and break free from his soul realm. On the other hand, the evil warding jade strip could help Nya Li trap the demon spirits. The 2 had reached a strange balance. The strength of the 3 demon spirits continued to increase, all the way to the 3-stage heavenly star realm. Nya Li had many ways to increase the strength of the demon spirits within his body, but he didn't dare to do so. Forcefully increasing the strength of the demon spirits without increasing his own strength would result in severe consequences. But with the evil warding jade strip, he didn't have to worry about that anymore. The 3-stage heavenly star realm wasn't his limit, but Nya Li stopped for the time being to stabilize his cultivation. Weazi was doing his best to kill the blackwater venom spiders along the way. When he sensed the aura coming from Nya Li's body, he was dumbfounded. In such a short period of time, Nya Li's cultivation had increased by 3 stages, reaching 8 fate. Even the most talented genius of the demon clan would have to sigh in admiration at Nya Li's inferiority. They had no idea how Nya Li did it. Even Weazi felt a trace of pressure from Nya Li's rapid advancement. Xiao Yu also looked at Nya Li in astonishment. Nya Li's cultivation was increasing so quickly that she couldn't keep up with Nya Li's advancement. This made her feel a sense of urgency. Guys, look ahead, Wuyazi said excitedly as he looked into the distance. At Wuyazi's words, Niali and Xiao, you couldn't help looking ahead. They saw streaks of light in the distance. Although it was only a trace of light, Wuyazi was so moved that tears streamed down his cheeks. They'd been traveling through the secret passage for so long. In order to kill those hairy and ugly blackwater venom spiders, Wuyazi's hands were about to cramp. Niali and Xiao, you had been leisurely walking behind him the entire time. They simply couldn't understand what he was feeling. They're finally going to reach their destination, Niali muttered to himself. After passing through this secret passage, they should arrive at the main hall of the void illusionary divine palace. Niali calculated the time. After breaking the 1,000 illusionary soul bewildering array, it would take at least half an hour for the people outside to break through the barrier. Then, it would take at least 2 hours to figure out the location of the main hall's life gate. And that was the fastest calculation. Niali lightly smiled. Don't worry, we still have plenty of time. Chapter 391. They advanced for several hundred meters. Finally, they saw a flight of stairs that led upwards. Niali's group of 3 ascended the stairs and entered a majestic hall. This hall had a circumference of several hundred meters and was extremely spacious. There wasn't a single stone pillar. The ceiling of the hall was decorated with mysterious murals. There were ferocious demon beasts and topless human experts fighting each other. At the end of the endless starry sky, there was a pair of eyes that was quietly watching everything. Niali looked at the ceiling of the hall. Those demon beasts and human experts didn't attract his attention. What he noticed was the pair of eyes at the end of the endless starry sky, an existence that was akin to the King of Gods. Although it was only a mural, it gave Niali an endless pressure that even made his breathing a little stagnant. Although it was only a pair of eyes, Niali knew that it belonged to the Holy Emperor. Some people said that the Holy Emperor wasn't powerful. Over the past tens of thousands of years, countless almighty experts had challenged the Holy Emperor. Many of them nearly succeeded. However, the Holy Emperor was fine, while those almighty experts had all disappeared. This endless space and time was under the control of the Holy Emperor. No one could shake the absolute authority of the Holy Emperor. In his previous life, after the destruction of the ancestral godland, the Holy Emperor began to massacre experts everywhere. The entire Draconic Ruins realm was killed to the point that only a few 100,000 people were left. Countless experts gathered from all directions to besiege the Holy Emperor, but all of them died. In his previous life, Niali had broken through the limits of humans by himself. He possessed the power of a god and even suppressed the Holy Emperor. However, in the end, he still died in the hands of the Holy Emperor. If it wasn't for the Temporal Demon's Spirit Book, Niali would have been reduced to ashes by now. What's with those eyes? Just a glance from them can make me feel a terrifying pressure, as if thousands of needles were stabbing into my body. Xiao Yu looked at Niali and said in a low voice, "You're talking about those eyes?" He was a powerful elder god. Wuyazi smiled and said, "This ancestor god is the controller of the ancestral demonic saint land, and he is a peak existence that our demon race worships devoutly. No one in your human race can contend against this ancestor god." Niali raised his eyebrows slightly. The demon race worshipped the Holy Emperor, but the Holy Emperor might not necessarily care about the demon race. The demons were just tools of the Holy Emperor. However, even if Niali said this, the demon race experts would not believe it. He didn't know why there was such a mural in the void, illusionary divine palace. Thinking of all the things the Holy Emperor had done in his previous life, Niali clenched his fists. The veins on his arms bulged. Indeed, challenging the authority of the Holy Emperor was not an easy task. However, in the next 200 years, Niali could slowly lay out his plans. He would not challenge the Holy Emperor hastily like he did in his previous life. A 5-meter-tall crystal jade wall stood in the center of the main hall. The jade wall was sparkling and translucent, and it looked gorgeous and dazzling. More than 100 experts sat beneath the crystal wall. Some were from the human race, while others were from the demon race. They sat cross-legged on the ground, staring at the jade wall in front of them, deep in thought. Why are there other people here? Weazi was stunned. There were Heavenly Star, Heavenly Axis, and even Tao of Dragon Realm experts. He didn't know why, but they were sitting in front of the crystal wall, deep in thought. How did they get here? Niali guessed that the experts from the various clans must have come here the last time, or perhaps even earlier. After they came here, they've been staying here, trying to comprehend the crystal jade wall in front of them. This crystal wall was the spiritual void wall. Only by deciphering the jade wall would they be able to enter the core of the void, illusionary, divine palace. Niali and the other two walked towards the crystal jade wall. When they were within 50 meters of the crystal jade wall, their cultivation didn't change at all. Although their cultivations hadn't changed, Li's group of 3 discovered that they couldn't circulate the heavenly energy within their bodies. It was as if they'd frozen. They'd lost their ability to fight the moment they stood before the crystal wall. No wonder the experts of the human race and the demon race were sitting here peacefully and did not engage in a fierce battle. They noticed that Li's group of 3 were newcomers. These experts only raised their heads and glanced at them before continuing to comprehend the crystal wall. Wu Yazi was astonished. Just what was it that attracted so many experts to sit here all this time? Wu Yazi sat down and raised his head to look at the crystal wall. Mysterious inscription patterns started to appear on the wall, along with some chants. He wasn't interested in inscription patterns, but the chants immediately attracted his attention. Could this crystal wall contain some kind of peerless cultivation technique? Wu Yazi's expression turned pensive as he stared at the crystal wall. Seeing Wu Yazi's expression, Li's heart trembled. He also sat down and prepared to comprehend the spiritual void wall. Xiao Yu also sat beside Li. A demon race youth glanced at Li's group of 3 and said, "Which sect are you guys from? It's been a long time since I've seen someone from the demon race enter. I wonder how many years it's been." The demon race youth mistakenly thought that Li and Xiao Yu were from the demon race as well. Li replied, "We're from the Yaoshin sect." He still had the appearance of a demon race member. "I'm also from the Yaoshin sect." The demon race youth said with excitement. Li looked at the demon race youth and asked, "How long have you been comprehending the spiritual void wall?" The demon race youth shook his head and sighed. However, the corner of his mouth curled into a smile. "However, I've been cultivating here, and my cultivation has been progressing very quickly. I've already cultivated from the 1 stage of the Heavenly Axis realm to the 3 stage of the Heavenly Axis realm." The demon race youth shook his head and sighed. However, the corner of his mouth curled into a slight smile. "However, I've been cultivating here, and my cultivation has been progressing very quickly. I've already cultivated from the 1 stage of Heavenly Axis realm to the 3 stage of Heavenly Axis realm." To increase his cultivation by 2 levels in 6 years was considered quite fast. It was no wonder that this monster youth was reluctant to leave even after staying here for 6 years. It wasn't just this young demon. The others were also unwilling to leave. "What's this senior brother's name?" Wu Yazi asked as he retracted his gaze from the crystal jade wall. "Senior brother Shinjen, I wonder what's recorded on the crystal wall." Wu Yazi probed. He could vaguely sense that the chant on the crystal wall was extraordinary. He wanted to ask about it before he could comprehend it. It should be the cultivation technique that the master of the void, illusionary divine palace cultivated when he was still alive. It's extraordinary. If you can comprehend even 1/10 or 2/10 of it, you'll definitely become a peerless expert. Shinjen said with a sigh, "I only comprehended 1 line of the chant, and I've already advanced from the 1 stage Heavenly Axis realm to the 3 stage Heavenly Axis realm." If I could comprehend more, sigh. Hearing Shinjin's words, Wuyazi couldn't help feeling excited in his heart. If that's the case, then it'll definitely be extraordinary. Hearing Shinjin's words, Wuyazi couldn't help feeling excited. If that's the case, then it'll truly be extraordinary. Although he didn't know what kind of existence the master of the void illusionary divine palace was, he was definitely an expert that surpassed his imagination. The cultivation technique he left behind definitely wouldn't be simple. Chapter 392. Li stared at the spiritual void wall before him as the incantations entered his eyes. It's actually the God Tongue cultivation technique. The God Tongue cultivation technique was created by an almighty expert. Once cultivated to the extreme, one would possess the strength of a god. The God Tongue cultivation technique wasn't inferior to the heavenly God cultivation technique. Could the master of the void illusionary divine palace be the legendary creator of the God Tongue cultivation technique, Ancestral Master Daozong? Ancestral Master Daozong was an extremely outstanding figure. He was an extremely mysterious person in history. No one knew anything about his life. All they knew was that he fought with the Holy Emperor at his peak. Although he didn't win, he managed to escape unscathed. Later on, the ancestral god land suppressed the Holy Emperor's demonic bone, and Ancestral Master Daozong disappeared without a trace. Li wondered if the void illusionary divine palace was where Ancestral Master Daozong was buried. The God Tongue cultivation technique was even more difficult to cultivate than the heavenly God cultivation technique. It required a devout heart to cultivate it. Although Li had experienced 2 lifetimes of cultivation, he was still immortal. It was extremely difficult for him to cultivate the God Tongue cultivation technique to major success. Li quietly sat before the spiritual void wall and stared at the mysterious inscription patterns on it. While Li and the rest were quietly comprehending the inscription patterns, a youth with an abnormally pale complexion appeared from another location and walked towards him. Li's pupils slightly narrowed at the sight of this youth. A cold, killing intent flashed through his eyes. It's actually the Demon Lord. Li never expected to encounter the Demon Lord here. The Demon Lord didn't enter through the life door. So where did he enter the void, illusionary divine palace from? The Demon Lord glanced at the surrounding crowd. He ignored their gazes and looked at the spiritual void wall before him. Li currently had the appearance of a demon, so the Demon Lord didn't recognize Li. He calmly sat a few dozen meters away from Li. A mysterious aura lingered around his body. From the Demon Lord's aura, Li could tell that the Demon Lord's cultivation had reached 8 fate. However, there was a mysterious and powerful aura coming from the Demon Lord that made Li feel a chill in his heart. During this period of time, because of the vine in Li's body, if it wasn't for the demon blood sacrifice, he might still be a 5 fate. On the other hand, the Demon Lord had a supreme physique. His cultivation advanced by leaps and bounds. Thinking about Yizong, who had died in the hands of the Demon Lord, Li's heart was filled with killing intent. If it wasn't for the fact that killing wasn't allowed here, Li would have already made his move. Although the Demon Lord possessed a mysterious aura, Li wasn't afraid of him. But now, even if he killed the Demon Lord, it would only cause the Demon Lord's cultivation to drop by a level. At this moment, the Demon Lord didn't care about anything and quietly sat down. His gaze was deep as he looked at the crystal jade wall before him. Shao, you also recognized the Demon Lord. The Demon Lord was also from the tiny world. She'd met the Demon Lord once in the tiny world. There was a deep hatred between Li and the Demon Lord. Shao, you couldn't help looking at Li with worry. She had a feeling that the Demon Lord was an extremely dangerous person. I never expected so many people to come here. But in the end, all of you will have to stop here. You're not fated to obtain Ancestral Master Daozong's secret treasure. The Demon Lord spoke with disdain towards the others. He stood up and walked towards the crystal jade wall. At this moment, Everyone's gazes were focused on the demon lord. Someone's trying to decipher the crystal jade wall again. Haha, overestimating himself. It's impossible for him to decipher the crystal jade wall. He'll probably return in failure soon. Countless people had tried to decipher the inscription patterns on the crystal jade wall, but all of them failed. Naturally, they didn't think that the demon lord would be able to decipher it. Li stared the back of the demon lord. For some reason, he felt that the demon lord he'd met this time wasn't the same as the previous one. However, he couldn't pinpoint what was different about him. The demon lord walked towards the crystal jade wall, stretched his right hand out and placed it on the wall. Traces of mysterious runes spread out from his right palm. The crystal jade wall suddenly blossomed with a dazzling radiance that caused everyone to cover their eyes with their hands. "What's going on?" Shin Jian exclaimed in shock. Weazi was also shocked in his heart. Just what was that person doing? Li's heart trembled as he stood up and yelled, "Stop him, quick!" Hearing Li's words, the two demon experts closest to the demon lord stood up and pounced towards the demon lord. At this moment, the demon lord's figure swiftly disappeared into the crystal jade wall, like a drop of water falling into a lake, swiftly disappearing without a trace. The two demon experts pounced on empty air and stared blankly at the crystal jade wall. "What's going on? Did that person disappear?" He went into the crystal jade wall. All the experts were extremely vexed in their hearts when they saw the scene. They'd been comprehending before the crystal jade wall for so long, yet they'd never had the chance to enter the crystal jade wall. However, there was a person who'd only appeared for 10 minutes and had actually broken the inscription pattern formation on the crystal jade wall. Li clenched his fists. He couldn't understand how the demon lord could enter the main hall and open the crystal jade wall so quickly. According to his calculations, it hadn't been long since the experts outside opened the outer hall's barrier. Unless the demon lord was already in the void illusionary divine palace before Li broke the 1,000 illusionary soul bewildering array. It seemed like he'd underestimated the demon lord. When everyone saw the demon lord disappear, they could only return to their seats in vexation and continue comprehending the crystal jade wall. Li stared at the crystal jade wall in front of him and quickly calculated the inscription pattern array on the crystal jade wall. After a brief moment, he finally calculated the method to break the inscription pattern array. Li transmitted his voice to Xiao Yu. "Continue comprehending by the crystal jade wall. Remember, before I return, don't leave the crystal jade wall. It's too dangerous outside." "Okay," replied Xiao Yu. She was a little puzzled. Could it be that Li also found a way to enter? Li walked towards the crystal jade wall and stood in front of it. Someone's trying to break the inscription patterns on the crystal jade wall again. Only 1 in 10,000 geniuses can break the inscription patterns. It's already pretty good if one appears in 1,000 years. How can there be so many of them? Everyone looked at Li with scrutinizing gazes. The experts closest to him glared at Li. The demon lord had opened the crystal jade wall too quickly, and they didn't have the time to stop him. If Li could break the crystal jade wall, they definitely wouldn't let Li enter. Li knocked on the crystal jade wall with his hand. Dong! 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 The crystal jade wall emitted echoes. The experts nearby laughed involuntarily. Li was such an amateur. No matter how they looked at him, he didn't look like someone who could break the crystal jade wall. Chapter 393. Let's do what we need to do. These experts continue to stare at the crystal jade wall, comprehending the chant on it. Just at this moment, Li is rapidly writing inscription patterns. These inscription patterns are rapidly reflected into the crystal jade wall. At the start, everyone thought that Li is just messing around. All of a sudden, the crystal jade wall shines brightly, and Li's figure starts to turn illusory. What's going on? Stop him! A few experts stand up, wanting to stop Li. They only see Nya, Li's figure rapidly vanishing into the crystal jade wall. They are dumbfounded. Another person has entered the crystal jade wall. Could it be that the method to enter the crystal jade wall is very simple? It's just that no one has tried it before? If I had known earlier, I would have stopped Nyeli and interrogated him about the method to enter. Wiazi is also stunned. He didn't expect that Nyeli would actually enter. He looks at Xiaoyu. Nyeli knows the method to enter? I'm also not sure. Xiaoyu shrugs. Probably entered by luck? Wiazi is very depressed. Li actually did not bring me in. Doesn't this mean that the treasures in the main hall have nothing to do with me? Wiazi takes a look at Xiaoyu. Xiaoyu is still here. He doesn't know if Nyeli will return, so he can only wait patiently. The experts in front of the crystal jade wall walk in front of the crystal jade wall and start to study the method to enter. One of the experts also imitated Nyeli and knocked on the crystal jade wall. Other than a series of echoes, he didn't discover anything. Just now, the two of them only wrote a few inscription patterns on the crystal jade wall and entered it. He thought for a moment and also wrote on the crystal jade wall. The inscription patterns were reflected on the crystal jade wall, and the crystal jade wall gave off a bright light. Success? He can't help but reveal an ecstatic expression as he stares at the crystal jade wall excitedly. At this moment, with a loud bang, a blazing power shot out from the crystal jade wall. The expert was sent flying by this power, flying dozens of meters away. He fell heavily to the ground. His whole body was charred black, and smoke was rising from his body. He kicked his legs a few times, and then there was no more movement. Seeing this, the other experts who were about to enter the crystal jade wall were stunned. His scalp went numb, and he didn't dare to try it recklessly. The inscription patterns on the crystal jade wall weren't that easy to decipher. Once they failed, they would have to pay the price. It hadn't been easy for them to come to the void illusionary divine palace and have the opportunity to comprehend the peerless cultivation technique on the crystal jade wall. How could they bear to return? One by one, they returned to their original positions and continued to comprehend the crystal jade wall. Wiazi glanced at the charred corpse in the distance. Nyeli was an extremely knowledgeable person. It was not surprising that he could open the crystal jade wall. He didn't know the background of the person who entered before Nyeli. It seemed that he wouldn't be able to enter again. It was better for him to stay here and comprehend the crystal jade wall. Xiaoyu blankly stared at the crystal jade wall before her. She didn't know why, but she suddenly felt a little sad in her heart. Nyeli, that person, would soon disappear from her life like a graceful swan. Her cultivation was now 2 levels lower than Nyeli's. In the future, the gap would only grow wider. Suddenly, she sensed something. 2 mysterious auras converged in her soul realm, then surged towards her limbs and meridians. The 2 auras were connected to the ring on her right hand. There was also a mysterious connection between them. For a long time, Xiaoyu had a feeling that there were 2 mysterious auras protecting her. Whenever she encountered a setback or encountered a bottleneck in her cultivation, the 2 auras would always appear and lend her a hand. The 2 auras would always appear and lend her a helping hand. Although she didn't know the origins of the 2 auras, Xiaoyu had a feeling that they were related to her identity. This was also the reason why she was so determined to find out her identity. Traces of energy flowed into her soul realm from the 2 auras, stimulating the power of the demon blood sacrifice. Xiaoyu's cultivation began to rise crazily. Her soul realm surged and surged. Even Xiaoyu was a little shocked. She couldn't control this power at all. Poof! The 8th fate soul in her soul realm began to burn. Shortly after, the 9th fate soul began to burn as well. In the center of the 9 fate souls, a mysterious starlight quietly appeared, filled with boundless energy. That was the fated star. Once she comprehended the power of the fated star, she would be able to step into the heavenly star realm. As Wiazi was cultivating, he suddenly sensed Xiaoyu's aura rising. She'd actually reached the Nine-Fate realm, and even had a faint feeling that she was about to break through to the Heavenly Star realm. Nieli and Xiao, you were simply too monstrous. The speed at which their cultivations rose was simply too frightening. Why were they making continuous breakthroughs? For ordinary people, it would take years or even decades for them to increase their strength by one rank. How could they be like Nieli and Xiaoyu? Xiaoyu was also inwardly shocked. The power of the demon blood sacrifice was secondary. The two mysterious auras seemed to be even stronger than the demon blood sacrifice. The two auras circulated in Xiaoyu's soul realm for a brief moment. Then they traveled up Xiaoyu's chest and rushed into her eyes. Two rays of divine light suddenly flashed in Xiaoyu's eyes. The crystal jade wall in front of her instantly became lustrous and dazzling. The inscription patterns on the crystal jade wall all appeared clearly in front of her eyes. She suddenly understood how to break through the crystal jade wall. Xiaoyu stood up and prepared to walk towards the crystal jade wall. Wait. Wuyazi stopped Xiaoyu. He could sense that Xiaoyu had become a little strange. His keen senses told him that Xiaoyu might also be able to open the crystal jade wall. Xiaoyu stopped and looked at Wuyazi. What is it? Wuyazi chuckled as he rubbed his hands together and transmitted his voice to Xiaoyu. Brother Xiaoyu, tell me how to open the crystal jade wall. You too have already gone in. You can't just leave me here. With my heavenly axis realm cultivation, I can also protect you. Xiaoyu pondered for a moment, then pointed with her right hand. Inscription patterns entered Wuyazi's mind. Letting Wuyazi follow them in was beneficial to them. Nieli might end up fighting with the demon lord. At that time, they'd have another helper. That should be the method to enter the crystal jade wall. Wuyazi's heart trembled. Xiaoyu was actually able to imprint inscription patterns into his mind. It looked like he'd greatly underestimated Xiaoyu's strength. Even a Tao of Dragon Realm expert might not be able to imprint inscription patterns into his mind. But Xiaoyu hadn't even reached the Heavenly Star Realm, yet she was able to do it. This made him shudder. Whether it was Nieli or Xiaoyu, they were both too mysterious and hard to fathom. Chapter 394. Void Illusionary Divine Palace. Main hall. A long red carpet led all the way to the front of the main hall, surrounded by towering pillars. Even here, he couldn't circulate his soul realm, and his aura seemed to have stagnated. Nieli looked to the front. At the front of the main hall, there's a 5 to 6 meter tall statue. It's a white-haired, long-bearded old man quietly sitting there. Although it's only a statue, its expression is lifelike, as though it's a living person. Although it was just a statue, it gave off an imposing and lofty feeling that made people involuntarily feel a trace of worship. This was the legendary ancestral Master Daozong. The demon lord stood a few dozen meters away from ancestral Master Daozong's statue. He raised his head and quietly looked at the statue. A trace of killing intent flashed through Nieli's eyes as he looked at the demon lord's back. However, this wasn't the place to fight. It was very likely that ancestral Master Daozong had hidden his true inheritance in this main hall. No matter what, Nieli absolutely couldn't let the demon lord obtain it. The demon lord sensed something and turned his head to look at Nieli. Their eyes met, but a brief moment later, the demon lord turned his head away. He didn't care about Nieli at all. Originally, the demon lord's aura was as sharp as a sword, but now it had become more reserved. However, Nieli could sense that the demon lord was even more dangerous than before. Nieli didn't know what the demon lord had encountered after coming to the Draconic Ruins realm, so he became vigilant in his heart. Right at this moment, a vast and boundless power descended from the sky. Nieli instantly felt as if he was submerged in a boundless ocean that could drown him at any moment. Feeling like he was about to be crushed into pieces by this aura, Nieli frantically circulated the vines and myriad miles, rivers, and mountains, painting within his body to resist this aura. A majestic voice rang out from the sky above the main hall. There was a trace of surprise in this voice. After waiting for millions of years, most of the people here are from the demon clan. Finally, 2 talented human juniors have arrived. Are you 2 willing to inherit my mantle and serve our humankind? That voice was loud and clear. It caused one's heart to tremble. Hearing this voice, Zhang Xian felt as if he had been baptized, and the evil thoughts in his heart were cleared. Human! The demon lord swept a glance at Nieli. Nieli clearly had the appearance of a demon. Although Nieli had activated the demon blood sacrifice and was wearing the demon race's disguise, he was still a demon race cultivator. However, this mighty figure, who was hiding somewhere, saw through Nieli's true form with a single glance. I am willing to serve the human clan. The demon lord nodded his head and replied indifferently. What would happen if the demon lord obtained ancestral master Daozong's legacy? Nieli raised his head and looked into the sky. I'm willing to serve the human race, but... Nieli pointed at the demon lord and said solemnly, I don't think that he can serve the human race. I hope that the ancestral master can see this clearly. At Nieli's words, the demon lord furrowed his brows and looked at Nieli. A cold light flashed through his eyes. He didn't understand how he defended Nieli. Ancestral Master Daozong's voice lingered in the air, piercing through one's heart. Everything in the world is connected by karma. The 2 of you came to the Void Illusionary Divine Palace at the same time, which means that you're fated to meet me. If you can't see through the good and evil in the world, then why bother? Nieli furrowed his brows. With Ancestral Master Daozong's abilities, he could definitely see through the demon lord's spiritual constellation technique. Why would Ancestral Master Daozong accept such an evil person as his disciple? Ancestral Master Daozong slowly said, If you become my disciple, you can hold the Daozong secret token and command the disciples of my Daozong lineage. However, from then on, someone will chase after you regardless of the consequences. With his strength, he can easily destroy the 6 major sections. The 6 sects won't be able to protect you. If the 2 of you are afraid, why don't you retreat as soon as possible? I'm willing. The demon lord calmly replied without the slightest hesitation. Nieli furrowed his brows. After his rebirth, Nieli's strength, the heavenly god cultivation technique, and the myriad miles, rivers, and mountains painting would allow him to reach the pinnacle step by step. Then he could challenge the Holy Emperor. He reckoned that the Holy Emperor wouldn't notice him for the time being. But if Nieli joined the Daozong lineage, he'd likely be exposed. With his current strength, challenging the Holy Emperor would be courting death. Even at his peak, Ancestral Master Daozong couldn't defeat the Holy Emperor. Nieli pondered for a moment, then cupped his hands and said, Please forgive me, Ancestral Master Daozong. I can't become your disciple. Oh, Ancestral Master Daozong wasn't surprised. Since that's the case, I'll pass my mantle to him alone. Nieli was a little depressed. He couldn't stop the Demon Lord. If the Demon Lord gained control of Ancestral Master Daozong's power, then it'd be even more difficult to deal with him in the future. As for using the Holy Emperor to deal with the Demon Lord, Nieli wouldn't do that. Although the Demon Lord had a grudge against him, Ancestral Master Daozong's disciples were innocent. Furthermore, they were the backbone of the Holy Emperor's power. Nieli was a little vexed. Although he'd been reborn, there were still some things that he couldn't control. Thinking about Yizong's death at the hands of the Demon Lord, Nieli's heart was filled with rage. One day, he would seek justice for Yizong. Although you can't inherit my mantle, we're still fated. I can sense the aura of the heavenly god cultivation technique, the myriad miles, rivers, and mountains painting, and the nether void art from you. It's not easy for you to cultivate to this level in such a short time. Although I don't know where you came from, I can deduce your goal. No matter what realm you've cultivated to, I'm afraid that you won't be a match for the Holy Emperor. For millions of years, countless experts have tried to break the space-time seal that the Holy Emperor has sealed, but to no avail. If you can't break the boundary of space-time, then even if you kill the Holy Emperor a billion times over, he can still easily reconstruct his body and become even stronger. But in his space-time seal, you can only die once. Unless you can find a few reincarnations to help you, then you'll only have a 10% chance of victory. But only a 10% chance. Ancestral Master Daozong's voice was ethereal, as if it came from another space-time. Nie Li was inwardly shocked. He didn't expect Ancestral Master Daozong to be able to see through people's hearts. Reincarnations? Whose reincarnations are they? Nie Li asked. At the beginning of the space-time seal, there were 6 people whose strength was on par with the Holy Emperor. I was one of them. The 6 of us lived together in harmony and comprehended the heavenly Tao. But we didn't expect the Holy Emperor to be so ambitious that he set up the heavenly Tao inscription formation of the 9 heavens and 10 earths to seal off the endless space-time seal. Then he fought us one by one. If the golden flame goddess hadn't transformed into the ancestral godland to suppress the Holy Emperor's demonic bone, I'm afraid all of us would have died. Now a wisp of their divine consciousness is experiencing the cycle of reincarnation. If you can find them, perhaps you can break through the space-time seal that the Holy Emperor has sealed off. Whether you can do it or not will depend on your fate and good fortune. After listening to Ancestral Master Daozong's words, Nie Li's thoughts wandered far away. Only today did he realize what kind of existence the Holy Emperor was. It's not easy being a nanny. Although I haven't slept well these past few days, I'm still very happy. Only when I raise a child will I know the kindness of my parents. It's a pity that my parents are no longer around, and there aren't many of us left. Only now do I understand how precious it is to have another family member and how much I should be grateful for it. I hope that this world will be a better place and that everyone can live happily ever after. Chapter 395. Ancestral Master Daozong's voice drifted off into the distance. I'm only a remnant of my will that remains in the void illusionary divine palace. I also have a reincarnated body. However, I don't know where my reincarnation body is. How difficult would it be to find the reincarnations of those 6 people? If he couldn't break the space-time seal, then he'd never be able to kill the Holy Emperor. Nie Li felt more and more pressure in his heart. After all, the Holy Emperor had been in this space-time for tens of millions of years. No matter how Nie Li planned, breaking the Holy Emperor's rule would be too difficult. Finding the reincarnations of those 6 people would increase his chances of success. After all, those 6 people were almighty experts from the ancient era. Even if they were reincarnations, they'd still have an extremely shocking bloodline. Is there no other way to challenge the Holy Emperor? Nie Li asked. Ancestral Master Daozong pondered for a moment, then said, It's not that there isn't, unless you can find a supreme treasure. Supreme treasure? What kind of treasure? Nie Li was stunned. In the primordial era, the Sage Emperor and the 6 of us were still in the primordial era. At that time, we had just stepped into the deity realm. A peerless expert brought a treasure to this world. Before that, he had fought a great battle with someone and was heavily injured. He was on the verge of death. He held a secret treasure book in his hand. This book could control space-time and contained boundless power, Ancestral Master Daozong said with fascination. Nie Li was shocked at Ancestral Master Daozong's words. Control space-time? Is Ancestral Master Daozong talking about the temporal demon spirit book? What happened after that? Nie Li couldn't help asking. The demon lord also listened but didn't say anything. This peerless expert wanted to use the 7 of our soul essences to heal himself, which caused the 7 of us to resist. The 7 of us besieged him, and in the end we killed him. However, before he died, he tore the secret treasure book into pieces. The secret treasure book streaked across the sky, and we couldn't find it again. We divided the 8 pages of the secret treasure book among ourselves, Ancestral Master Daozong said, streaked across the sky and disappeared. Nye Li was pretty sure that Ancestral Master Daozong was talking about the Temporal Demon Spirit book. However, he didn't know where the Temporal Demon Spirit book had gone. What about the last 8 pages? Of the 8 pages, at least 3 are in the Holy Emperor's hands. 1 is in the Void Illusionary Divine Palace. I don't know where the rest went. The reason why the Saint Emperor is able to seal off space-time is probably because he has comprehended space-time force from the page. With a thought, Nye Li had 2 remnant pages of the Temporal Demon Spirit book in his hand. Nye Li thought for a moment, then asked, Ancestral Master Daozong, would you be willing to hand over the page in your possession to me? Master, can you hand that remnant page to me? The demon lord beside him also asked. He was now Ancestral Master Daozong's disciple. Naturally, he couldn't let such a treasure fall into Nye Li's hands. Ancestral Master Daozong said to the demon lord, You've already inherited my orthodoxy. You should concentrate on your cultivation. This page is an extremely dangerous item. Even if I give it to you, you won't be able to comprehend the power of space-time on it. Instead, you'll be implicated in karma. The demon lord was silent for a moment. He understood that experts of Ancestral Master Daozong's level would always keep their word. They wouldn't go back on their words. He could only give up. Ancestral Master Daozong's thoughts landed on Nye Li as he said, I can give you this remnant page, but if you have enough reasons to convince me, I'll consider it. However, if I give it to you, it'll only bring you trouble and no benefits. Do you still want it? Nye Li lightly smiled and said, I already have 2 broken pages. Ancestral Master Daozong was stunned when he heard Nye Li's words. He hadn't expected Nye Li to already have 2 pages. Since you already have 2 pages, why don't you give me the 3rd page? There's nothing wrong with giving you the 3rd page. Be careful in the future. Don't let the Holy Emperor track you down. Ancestral Master Daozong said, with a page, one would be hunted down. There was no difference between 2 pages and 3 pages. The demon lord also glanced at Nye Li with a surprised expression. At that moment, a page slowly floated down from the sky and landed in front of Nye Li. Nye Li reached out and grabbed the page, then put it away. Although he didn't get the page, the demon lord wasn't too disappointed. Instead, he felt the incantation in his mind. The power of the incantation was far beyond his imagination. If he cultivated this incantation, he could definitely surpass the martial ancestor realm in a short time. Many thanks, Master. The demon lord cupped his hands towards the sky. Nye Li slightly clenched his fists, the veins on his arms popping out. The demon lord had inherited Ancestral Master Daozong's orthodoxy. He would be even more difficult to deal with in the future. The demon lord sat down cross-legged, and his figure slowly disappeared. Nye Li knew that the demon lord must have entered a secret area of the Void Illusionary Divine Palace to cultivate. Nye Li remained silent. Although he wasn't happy, there was nothing he could do. But even if the demon lord had inherited Ancestral Master Daozong's orthodoxy, Nye Li still had to avenge Yizong. No matter how difficult it was, he wouldn't give up. Ancestral Master Daozong's intent landed on Nye Li as he indifferently asked, Are you wondering why I accepted him as my disciple? Yes. Nye Li nodded. Ancestral Master Daozong was a man of great wisdom. Why would he pass down his orthodoxy to the demon lord, who was unscrupulous and didn't hesitate to use the spiritual constellation technique to sacrifice countless lives? The great Tao of heaven and earth. Life and death are but a blink of an eye. Ancestral Master Daozong sighed. Even a pinnacle expert cannot avoid death in the end. Nye Li's brows twitched. He definitely didn't agree with the Ancestral Master Daozong's point of view. So, from Ancestral Master Daozong's point of view, those who died because of the spiritual constellation technique deserved it? That's right. Life and death have long since faded. However, there's no need for us to argue about this. Ancestral Master Daozong shook his head and said, I know that you're up to something big, but if you want to defeat the Sage Emperor, you need his help. That's because he's one of the 6 reincarnations you're looking for. Nia Li's eyes widened. He never imagined that the Demon Lord was one of the 6 reincarnations. Didn't that mean that if Nia Li wanted to defeat the Holy Emperor, he'd have to work with the Demon Lord? I definitely won't ask for help from him. Nia Li's eyes flashed with a cold light. It was impossible for him to work with the Demon Lord. Ancestral Master Daozong sighed. You have a personal grudge with him, but the Holy Emperor concerns the lives of the world. Can't you let it go? I can't, Nia Li said resolutely. In my eyes, the Demon Lord and the Holy Emperor are both scum who have no regard for human life. There's no difference. Chapter 396. Ancestral Master Daozong sighed, but didn't say another word. It was impossible for him to convince Nia Li, because Nia Li wasn't wrong. However, the matters of this world couldn't be explained in a few words. Nia Li stared into the void, his expression firm. Even without his help, I can still break the Holy Emperor's seal. Even if the Demon Lord had inherited Ancestral Master Daozong's legacy, Nia Li would still kill the Demon Lord and avenge Yi Zhong. Since the Demon Lord is one of the 6 reincarnations, it's impossible for him to borrow the power of the 6 ancient almighty beings to break the seal. Only the Temporal Demon Spirit Book can help him. However, he had no idea where the Temporal Demon Spirit Book was. Nia Li sighed inwardly. Fortunately, he had at least 200 years to slowly search. I've chosen the successor of the legacy, and I have also given you the remnant page of the Temporal Demon Spirit Book. My mission is complete. It won't be long before my intent dissipates. You've already chosen your own path, and I can no longer change it. The road ahead is full of dangers, so you're on your own. Although the Void Illusionary Divine Palace is under my control, I wasn't the one who built it. There are still many treasures hidden within. If you want them, take them. However, the Void Illusionary Divine Palace is filled with dangers. No less than 10 million people have died here. Think about it yourself. Ancestral Master Daozong's voice gradually faded away. As Ancestral Master Daozong's voice faded away, Nia Li pondered for a moment as he digested the information he'd just received. Although he understood how powerful the Holy Emperor was, it couldn't shake Nia Li's determination to fight against the Holy Emperor. He wondered what other treasures were hidden within the Void Illusionary Divine Palace. Just as Nia Li was about to search for treasures, he heard a burst of savage laughter. Ha ha ha! Ancestral Master Daozong's intent has finally left. I'll take over from here on out. The laughter echoed throughout the Void Illusionary Divine Palace. Nia Li furrowed his brows. Who was this person? Everyone in the inner and outer halls of the Void Illusionary Divine Palace heard the thunderous voice. They raised their heads and looked at the void in confusion, not quite understanding what the voice was saying. The Son of Fire frowned and glanced at the sky. His subordinates had already divined the Gate of Life, and a large group of experts were following him into the main hall. However, this voice made him suspicious. Could it be that the voice belonged to someone else in the Void Illusionary Divine Palace? A peerless expert was hidden here. Yan Yang's group had just arrived at the Void Illusionary Divine Palace. Aside from the Skyblaze sect, there were also experts from the Hagami Munyin, Heavenly Note sect, and other major sections. They had yet to find a way to break the main hall's grand formation. I forgot to introduce myself. I'm the Void Illusionary Divine Palace. Over the past 10 million years, I've cultivated my own intent. Previously, I was afraid of Ancestral Master Daozong's aura, so I didn't dare to show myself. I'm free. Therefore, everyone in the Void Illusionary Divine Palace will listen to me. The will of the Void Illusionary Divine Palace laughed. The void illusionary divine palace had actually cultivated a powerful intent. All the exits have been sealed by me. I have a total of 23,672 people here. Now let's play a game. Right now you have two choices. One is to die and go back. The other is that I have hidden 1,000,000 Ganges crystals in this god palace. Find the 6 people with the most Ganges crystals. Only then would they have the qualifications to distribute the treasures and leave the void illusionary divine palace. You only have 6 hours. Let the game begin. The voice echoed throughout the void illusionary divine palace as it let out an ear-piercing laughter, with a hint of mockery. Hearing this, the son of fire's expression darkened. He still didn't understand what was going on. Yin Yang was also puzzled. Nye Li was silent for a moment. He felt that there was something wrong with this matter. However, the void illusionary divine palace was sealed. If they wanted to obtain the treasures, they would have to fight for the Ganges crystals. Otherwise, they would have to die and go back. Outer Hulda people from the divine sects were all wondering where they should go to find Ganges crystals. Suddenly, tens of thousands of Ganges crystals floated over. Those are the Ganges crystals. A figure flew up and pounced towards the Ganges crystals. I'm the Divine Thunder Archdevil of the Pentastrike Demon Sect. Anyone who dares to compete with me for the Ganges crystals will be killed without mercy. We can't let the Ganges crystals fall into his hands. The other sect's experts also flew up and charged towards the Ganges crystals. I said you're not allowed to compete with me. The Divine Thunder Archdevil's right hand moved and bolts of divine lightning shot towards the pursuing experts. Boom! Boom! Several Heavenly Star Realm experts couldn't dodge in time and were instantly blasted to pieces by the Divine Thunder Archdevil's lightning. A Tao of Dragon Realm expert. Everyone's faces slightly changed. Generally speaking, Tao of Dragon Realm experts rarely appeared in the outside world. Starting from the Heavenly Fate Realm, they'd condense a Fate soul in their body. At most, they could reach the 9 Fate Realm and die 9 times. Therefore, dying in the outside world wasn't a big deal. But once they reached the Tao of Dragon Realm, their 9 fates would return to 1. Generally speaking, Tao of Dragon Realm experts treasured their lives. They weren't willing to risk their lives in the outside world, unless they had some sort of unique life-saving secret technique. Even if they had unique life-saving techniques, they'd still be extremely cautious. Anyone who dares to compete with me for the Ganges crystals will be killed. Venerable God Thunder's expression was cold. But just as he finished speaking, several Heavenly Axis Realm experts had already snatched a portion of the Ganges crystals. Venerable God Thunder's strength was tyrannical, but he couldn't stop so many people. He immediately started fighting for the Ganges crystals. Although the others were afraid of Venerable God Thunder's strength, they also started fighting for the Ganges crystals without a care for their own safety. Tens of thousands of Ganges crystals had triggered a chaotic battle between 5,000 to 6,000 people. It only took a moment for 2,000 to 3,000 people to die. In the entire void illusionary divine palace, large amounts of Ganges crystals would mysteriously appear wherever people gathered. The fighting grew more and more intense, and chaotic battlefields were everywhere. A person beside him looked at the Son of Fire and asked, "Holy Son, what should we do? The people outside are already fighting for the Ganges crystals. Should we go and fight for the Ganges crystals as well?" It hadn't been easy for them to find the life gate. The Son of Fire went silent for a brief moment, then said, "Don't worry about it. Let them fight for it. Everyone follow me to the main hall." With that, the Son of Fire walked into the tunnel with his subordinates following behind him. At that moment, Yin Yang and the other experts of the Skyblaze sect were in the center of the battlefield. Although they'd managed to snatch over 1,000 Ganges crystals, they'd suffered heavy losses. In just a short period of time, Hundreds of people had died. Everyone was going crazy over the Ganges crystals. Chapter 397. The slaughter grew more and more intense. Everyone was frantically fighting for the Ganges crystals. Yan Yang lowered his head to look at the corpses on the ground. Strands of energy slowly flowed out of the corpses and seeped into the soil. Yan Yang furrowed his brows as he watched the people fighting for the Ganges crystals. He vaguely sensed that something wasn't right. Everyone come back. Stop fighting for the Ganges crystals. Follow me. Yan Yang said solemnly as he flew off in another direction. Although the Skyblaze sex experts didn't understand why Yan Yang would give such an order, they still followed closely behind him. In the center of the main hall, Li looked around, but he didn't find anything like the Ganges crystals. He walked deeper into the main hall, turned through a small door, and arrived at the rear hall. There were dozens of statues in the rear hall, each of which was engraved with inscription patterns. The corner of Li's mouth rose into a smile as he looked at the dozens of statues. According to his calculations, there was only one statue that was the key to this mission. These statues might be able to confuse others, but they couldn't escape Li's eyes. Li stopped and pondered. Just as Li was pondering in front of the dozens of statues, the towering crystal jade wall outside the main hall suddenly collapsed and a long tunnel appeared before everyone's eyes. Those who were comprehending the mental cultivation technique in front of the crystal wall were all stunned. Previously, no matter how many methods they tried, they were unable to enter the crystal jade wall. So why did the crystal jade wall suddenly open? Let's go. Let's go in and take a look. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. One figure after another flew into the tunnel. From their point of view, the void illusionary divine palace must be hiding countless treasures. The life door of the spirit array outside opened, and countless experts surged into the main hall. Li walked past one statue after another. He'd already determined that 7 of them weren't the key to the array. A furious snort came from the depths of the void illusionary divine palace. Who dares to disturb me? Hurry up and leave, otherwise don't blame me for being impolite. The voice was like thunder. It blasted into Li's ears. Who are you? Li looked into the depths of the void illusionary divine palace. I am this void illusionary divine palace. Everything in this palace is under my control. As long as I want to, I can turn all living things in this palace into ashes. This is not a place where you should be. Leave now. The voice was filled with killing intent. Oh. Li nodded and continued to observe the sculptures. Did you hear what I said? Leave immediately, or don't blame me for being impolite. The voice was sullen. Then don't hold back. I'm only at the Destiny realm, so it doesn't matter if I die. Li said calmly. Li didn't care about life and death at all. The voice went silent for a moment, then continued, since you're not afraid of death, why don't you fight for the Ganges crystals in the outer hall? That way, you'll have a chance to obtain the treasures hidden in the void illusionary divine palace. I'm only at the heavenly fate realm. The people in the outer hall are at least at the heavenly star realm or heavenly axis realm. I'm not their match. Isn't fighting for the Ganges crystals courting death? As Li spoke, he took a few more steps forward. The 8th statue wasn't the key to the array, either. You might only be at the heavenly fate realm, but that doesn't mean you don't have a chance. I've hidden hundreds of thousands of Ganges crystals in a secret room in the main hall. As long as you listen to my guidance, you'll be able to find them. That way, you'll be able to obtain the treasures of the void illusionary divine palace. Really? Li said in astonishment. Of course, the voice replied. I'm just a strand of intent born from the void illusionary divine palace. The treasures in the void illusionary divine palace are useless to me. Why would I lie to you? What treasures are hidden in the void illusionary divine palace? Li walked past the 9th sculpture. The ninth statue was not the key to the formation. There are many treasures in the void illusionary divine palace. There are tens of millions of gold, spiritual stone essences alone, as well as countless artifacts. Even a small portion of them is enough to make you a fortune comparable to a divine sect. The voice was filled with temptation. But I'm not interested in these things. Nia Li continued. He was still studying the sculptures. Apart from these belongings, the void illusionary divine palace also hides many powerful ancient divine artifacts. All you need to do is bind them with your blood and you'll be able to use them. They'll be incomparably powerful. The voice continued. Not interested. Nia Li shook his head and said, Then what exactly are you interested in? The voice said coldly and angrily. I think these sculptures are quite interesting. Actually, I'm a traveling artist. Nia Li looked at the sculptures with interest. He was still calculating the inscription patterns on the sculptures. Suddenly, Nia Li's gaze fell on the feet of one of the sculptures. A piece of gold spiritual stone essence caught Nia Li's attention. It was only a piece of gold spiritual stone essence. Although it wasn't an astonishing amount of wealth, it was still better than nothing. Nia Li bent down and picked it up. Just as Nia Li picked up this piece of gold spiritual stone essence, he heard a mournful voice. Put that piece of gold spiritual stone essence down. It's mine. I'll kill you if you dare to take it away. Everything in the void illusionary divine palace is mine. No one is allowed to touch it. I'll kill anyone who dares to touch it. Kill, kill, kill. I'll kill every single one of you. No one is allowed to take away the treasures of the void illusionary divine palace. The voice hysterically shouted. It was like a devil's voice, blasting into Nia Li's ears. Nia Li held the gold spiritual stone essence in his right hand. The piercing voice made Nia Li furrow his brows. His eardrums were about to shatter. I've only taken a piece of gold spiritual stone essence that fell to the ground. Is there a need to be so excited? Nia Li seemed to have thought of something. The corner of his mouth twitched as he continued to study the sculptures. Did you hear what I said? Put down the gold spirit stone essence and get the hell out of here. Otherwise, I'll make sure you die without a burial. The voice furiously cursed, like a shrew cursing on the street. Nia Li didn't care about the voice. He was completely focused on calculating the inscription patterns on the sculptures. One figure after another flew into the main hall. Their path was unimpeded, so they didn't stop as they charged into the main hall. We're already in the main hall. Where are the treasures of the void illusionary divine palace hidden? The group of people searched around, and soon they found a small door that was tightly shut. Don't tell me it's in here. Chapter 398. Nia Li didn't know if that voice was the will of the void illusionary divine palace, but he was certain of one thing. The reason why the void illusionary divine palace wanted everyone to fight over the Ganges crystals was so that the experts outside would kill each other. As for the 6 who obtained the most Ganges crystals, they'd be able to obtain the treasures of the void illusionary divine palace. That was simply a lie. That fellow was so stingy that it couldn't even bear to part with a single gold spiritual stone essence. It was simply impossible for it to spit out all of its treasures. Furthermore, Nia Li was certain that it was intentionally luring the experts outside to kill each other in order to prevent them from getting close. He'd soon find the key to the inscription pattern array. Suddenly, Xiao Yu and Wiyazi flew over. When she saw Nia Li, Xiao Yu anxiously said, Nia Li, the experts outside are all rushing in. What should we do? Nia Li furrowed his brows at Xiao Yu's words. If the experts outside were all rushing in, then it'd be a little difficult for Nia Li to break the inscription pattern array. Follow me, Nia Li said solemnly as he led Xiao Yu and Wiyazi to the side. Over 100 experts rushed in and started searching for the treasures of the void illusionary divine palace. They shuttled through the inscription pattern array. Nia Li's group of 3 stood by the side, quietly watching the experts who were searching for items without making any moves. Wiyazi was on full alert. Logically speaking, it'd be very difficult for these people to break through the crystal jade wall. However, so many experts had rushed in at once. Nie Li was certain that the will of the void illusionary divine palace had led them here on purpose to stop him from breaking the inscription pattern array. It's the Ganges crystals. So many. Suddenly, hundreds of thousands of Ganges crystals floated down from the center of the inscription pattern array. The experts' eyes turned red as they started fighting over them. A chaotic slaughter broke out. Boom! Boom! As the energy swept past, blood splattered everywhere. In order to fight for the Ganges crystals, the group of experts seemed to have gone crazy. After all, there were hundreds of thousands of Ganges crystals here. Then it was very likely that he would directly enter the top 6. Seeing everyone fighting for it, Wiyazi was also excited. After all, there were so many Ganges crystals. If he missed it, he wouldn't have another chance. Don't move. Let them fight for it. Nie Li pulled Wiyazi and said in a deep voice, "Why?" Wiyazi looked at Nie Li in confusion. Don't you think it's strange? These Ganges crystals are deliberately used to make these experts fight each other. Nie Li transmitted his voice to Wiyazi. When Wiyazi heard this, his heart skipped a beat. After thinking for a while, he understood and stood behind Nie Li and Xiaoyu to protect Nie Li and Xiaoyu. Since Nie Li had arrived before him, it was very likely that he'd discovered something. As long as he protected Nie Li, then they might be able to obtain the treasures of the void illusionary divine palace. More and more experts entered the battlefield. Soon, there were 500 to 600 of them. The chaotic battle continued. A brief moment later, a group of 200 to 300 people flew in. It was the Son of Fire's group from the Yaoshan sect. Son of Fire swept his eyes over the battlefield and the Ganges crystals on the ground. Kill everyone here. Don't leave a single one alive. When they heard the Son of Fire's words, the experts behind the Son of Fire leaped into the air and started a frenzied slaughter. Uft, uft, uft. The Yaoshan sect's experts killed over 100 people in a row. It was a one-sided slaughter. 5 Yaoshan sect's experts pounced towards Wiyazi's group. Wiyazi flashed his token and shouted, "I'm from the Yaoshan sect." When the 5 Yaoshan sect's experts saw the silver token in Wiyazi's hand, they paused for a brief moment. Then they pounced in another direction. The Holy Son, Li Hua's actions had attracted the attention of the experts who were fighting over the Ganges crystals. If they continued to kill each other, they would soon be wiped out by the DemonGods sect. Therefore, the experts quickly formed an alliance. Therefore, the experts quickly banded together and began to resist the Yaoshan sect's slaughter. The Son of Fire swept his gaze over the experts and coldly snorted, "Overestimating yourselves." Nie Li transmitted his voice to Wiyazi. "What's that guy's background?" Wiyazi looked a little guilty as he replied, "You and Xiaoyu have to be careful. Retract your aura and don't expose your identities. Otherwise, if he finds out that I used the demon blood sacrifice on you, I'll be dead. If he finds out that I used the demon blood sacrifice on you, I'm dead. He's the Yaoshan sect's Son of Fire. He's very likely to be the next Yaoshan sect's patriarch." Son of Fire? Nie Li had heard of this name in his previous life. This Son of Fire was a future overlord-class existence and the master of the Yaoshan sect. He had once led the Yaoshan sect's experts to attack Hagami Munyan and destroyed Hagami Munyan's soul hull. Although Hagami Munyan had defeated the Yaoshan sect's experts in the end, that battle marked the beginning of Hagami Munyan's decline. Countless Hagami Munyan's experts had fallen. He didn't expect to meet the Son of Fire here. Nie Li retracted his aura. The Son of Fire had indeed sensed that he had used the demon blood sacrifice to obtain the demon race's form. If so, it didn't matter if it was him, Xiaoyu, or Wiyazi, they would all die. The Son of Fire coldly glanced at Wiyazi and the other 2 standing in the corner before retracting his gaze. Although Wiazi's position in the Yaoshin sect was not bad, it was still too far away from the Son of Fire. However, since they were members of the Yaoshin sect, the Son of Fire didn't plan to do anything to Wiazi and the other two. The strength of the Son of Fire's underlings was too strong. Furthermore, all of them had high-grade artifacts on them. The experts of the various clans were slaughtered by the underlings of the Son of Fire to the point that less than a fifth of them were left. More than half of the Ganges crystals had fallen into the hands of the Son of Fire. The Son of Fire stared at the dozens of statues in front of him and slightly frowned. Although there were corpses everywhere and blood flowed like a river, the inscription patterns became even more dazzling after being soaked in blood. Seeing the Son of Fire in deep thought, Nya Li's heart trembled. Could it be that the Son of Fire was also calculating this inscription pattern array? Just as the Son of Fire was in deep thought, another group of people entered the back hall. There were also about 200 to 300 people. The one leading them was the Skyblaze Sex Yen Yang. Yen Yang looked around the back hall. After seeing the Son of Fire, a trace of cold light flashed through his eyes. The Son of Fire was undoubtedly a very strong opponent. However, there was no fear in his eyes, only blazing battle intent. The holy sons of the Yaoshin sect and the Skyblaze sect, one righteous and one evil, had gathered in this small back hall. Seeing the appearance of Yen Yang, Nieli couldn't help but be moved. He didn't expect that Yen Yang would also come. Now it's even more lively. The holy sons of the two sects have appeared here. They shouldn't give way to each other. I wonder if they have the opportunity to activate the inscription pattern array.